good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Is it morning somewhere in the world right now? It must be, right? Shout out to everybody in the live chat. The show will commence shortly, once the live chat has filled up a little bit. And once there's 50% concurrent viewers to likes ratio, we will commence. Shout out to everybody. The likes really help these streams get seen, really helps with visibility for the channel. So if you could just take a split second to put a like on this stream, I'd really appreciate it. So while we wait for the chat room to fill up, just going to give you a rundown on what we'll be talking about today. So there are pictures of Tyson Fury in training camp for this Usyk rematch. We're just, a little over a week away now. And we'll be talking about the claims of some fans that Fury looks in career best shape, or at least the best shape for many years, better shape than he was in for the first Usyk fight. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Frank Warren's prediction for the fight, because that's quite interesting, he says. We'll talk about the fact that the British Boxing Board of Control have ordered Moses Itauma to fight David Adeleye for the English heavyweight title. They just ordered that in the past 24 or 48 hours. So that's something to discuss. We'll also talk about the new Matchroom heavyweight signing, Tero Moana. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's fighting this weekend on the Chev Clark undercard. That'll be on Saturday. We'll also talk about the Eubank Jr. Conor Benn saga, which seems to be going on forever. And a few other things. I'll also get to your questions and comments along the way. So shout out to everybody in the live chat again. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. I should have said that in the first place, but yeah, I assume you can. Can everybody hear me in the live chat? No response yet. Maybe you can't. Okay, Osas, big up Osas. Punchcroat says yes, can hear me. Okay, good. Excelente. Shout out to the Joker. Kronos, Leah Potts, Martin Colton, Pro Cala, Star Fox waved, Mr. Williams, Enki, Beautiful Game, Chris V. All right. Nolan, shout out to you. He's over there in Australia. We got Tawheed. We got Canoe, London. We got Matt, JDM. All right. Apologies to anyone who I've missed, because there's quite a few people in here now. We got 200 concurrent viewers just over. If we can get the likes up to 100, then we'll commence the show. And while we wait for the likes to get up to 100, you know the routine. Gonna do some singing. oh yes. If you want me to stop the singing, get the likes up to 100 or just over 100. All right, let's get the singing going. Yeah, hopefully singing will be bad enough to make people get me 100 likes. Shout out to Chili Beef for the super chat. Says, yes, Hatman, thank you for crazy activity lately. Loving the Patreon boxing breakdown videos. They are really good. Movie talk is also welcome. Shout out to Chili Beef. Yeah, movie talk. Might do some movie talk in this stream later on when we've done with all the boxing chat. And also the movie breakdowns on Patreon. I want to do some more of those, the decoding videos. Shout out to Osas for the super chat as well. He says, thanks for the video, Hatman. Love your channel. Been watching for years. Never stop. Big up Osas. Whenever I hear that name Osas, I think of that video of the Nigerian guy with a ridiculous long name that's got Osas at the end. Is that where you got your username from? Or is that your actual name? 96 likes. Okay, you're trying to keep the singing at bay. Baby Uno, big up. Yeah, these people really don't want the singing. They really don't want the singing. We're still not quite. I mean, the concurrent viewers have gone up now to 240. So that means I need 120 likes. Somebody says sing YMCA. Nah, it's not going to be that. Let's do some singing here. And the gold star for anyone who can tell me which artist this is. All right. You think you fooled the crowd this time? Look how you fooled yourself again. Quite an act of smoothing craft, easily making friends. But then gunshots after dark, and daylight in the park, and all the people gather around, another body to be found. Look how you take another life round it, and then go run off your mouth somewhere, and then you kick back, relax, check say, and like them other times you must get where none no go so, no, none no go so. Days are counting down on you, the hourglass is running out, and in only just a few, you'll be replaced by one of your scouts. Then gunshots after dark, and daylight's biggest talk. Every mouth uttering the same words, you'll get what you deserve. Look how you take another life round it, and then go run off your mouth somewhere, and then you kick back, relax, check say, and like them other times you must get where none no go so, no, none no go so. Anybody know the artist? Let's check the live chat. Nobody knows him. Nah, not Peter Tosh. Definitely not Peter Tosh. Somebody says my ears are disintegrated. I thought it was one of my better renditions, to be fair. Nah, it's not Jimmy Cliff. Bob Marley, no. No, not Maxi Priest. Maybe Uno says my ears fell off, mate. Damn, was it that bad? Beanie Man, no. Lil Wayne. Definitely not Lil Wayne. We ain't at 120 likes yet, people. We need 140 likes now. Come on, let's get these likes up. Help me out here. Or I'm going to do more singing. I'm threatening you here with more singing. This is a hostage situation. This is a hostage. I'm not letting you guys go. I'm going to inflict more singing on you. Not Eddie Grant, no. You can get the likes up, please. Much appreciated. Gregory Isaacs, it's not him. Can we have a small clue? I'm not sure what, I mean, he's Jamaican, obviously, the artist. He did another song, a very famous song. One of his most famous song was called They're Gonna Talk. I swear that's the name of the song, They're Gonna Talk. Nah, it's not Gregory Isaacs. Beres Hammond, there you go. Darren Lewis Jones. He wins the prize of a Invisible Gold Star. Yes, shout out to Darren Lewis Jones. Beres Hammond. That's right. Beres Hammond. Declan says, fantastic performance. Don't mind the haters. Shout out to Declan. You know, I'm bringing my singing in the shower to the audience. Someone says George Michael. I already got some jokers in the chat. All right. One more song? Or we'll do some singing at the end, maybe. We'll do some silly singing at the end. Gonna mess with some of these effects. Because there's one song from the 80s that I want to sing later. It requires this voice modification. Listen here. It requires this voice modification. What's this guy here? Ghetto genius. I thought, not even thought, he was a bounty. Well, I know you're an idiot. Let me get you out of here. Send him to the block party. There you go. Yeah, that voice is crazy, but I'm going to do some singing with that voice later on. Anyway, enough of the frivolity. Let's get onto some boxing talk here. Got plenty to discuss. So, first and foremost, Tyson Fury, said to be, by many, in career best shape for this Usyk rematch. But is he? Or is it all cap? Well, the best shape I've ever seen Tyson Fury in was in the run-up to the David Haye fight that never was. You guys remember that? I'm going to show you a picture here of Tyson Fury in the run-up to that David Haye fight that never happened. Look at the condition. You can actually see abs there. Fury has never been in that kind of shape again since. In fact, he was never in that kind of shape before. That's the pinnacle of his physical condition. It was before that, failed David Haye fight. All right? This is the shape he's in now. So I think we can right away shoot down this idea that he's in career best shape, at least aesthetically. He's nowhere near what he was in the run-up to the failed Haye fight, okay? But is he in better shape than, let's say, or as good a shape as he was in for the second Wilder fight? Because some people are saying that instead. Well, he's in as good a shape as he was for Wilder, too, when he came in heavy, but he was really solid. And he laid the smackdown on Deontay Wilder. Well, let's have a look at that. This is Tyson Fury in the second Deontay Wilder fight. Look at his midriff. Look at the tone of his body there. Now, you tell me, is he in the same shape now as he was for the Wilder rematch? He's not, is he? It's quite clear to see aesthetically he's not the same kind of shape. Now, obviously, I'm going to say something that it should be very obvious. This is a fight, not a bodybuilding contest. Yeah? So it's not about who's the best aesthetically, who's in the best shape aesthetically. No. But the point is, people are looking at Tyson Fury now and they're saying this is evidence that he's in better shape than he was for the first fight. They're looking at this particular picture. I'm not especially convinced by pictures from boxers, especially heavyweight boxers. I've learned not to be over the years. At the end of a session, when you've sweated out, I don't know, a liter of water, more. I mean, in pounds, you might sweat out 5, 10, 12 pounds in a session if you're a really big guy. Especially if it's an evening session and you've been training all day. You might sweat out an enormous amount of weight. And then after a session like that, yeah, you're going to look a little bit more lean. But then as soon as you hydrate again, you look bloated. As soon as you start taking carbs on again, you look bloated. So, yeah, I'm not too, I don't fall too much for these pictures that these fighters show us. But in any event, there are some people saying this picture is evidence that Tyson Fury was in better shape that he was for the first Usyk fight. So let's compare Tyson Fury in the first Usyk fight to the Tyson Fury for this fight. So this is him now, basically. This is a December photo as far as I'm aware. This is from his Instagram page. All right. And here we have Tyson Fury in May this year on the left. That's Tyson Fury in May this year on the left-hand side of your screen versus Tyson Fury now on the right-hand side of your screen. Does he look in much better shape, much more solid, much more strong? Because that's another thing people were saying. He looks so much stronger now than he did for the first Usyk fight. Does he look stronger? To me, he looks heavier. But I don't see any extra strength or, noticeable extra muscle there. Here's another picture. On the left is May 2024. On the right is December 2024. You guys tell me. Maybe I need Specsavers. I mean, I don't think I do, but he doesn't look aesthetically in any better shape now than he did back in May, to my eyes. Here we've got another one. Tyson Fury back in May on the left. Tyson Fury right now on the right. He just looks heavier to me, as in more fat on the right. And I'm not convinced by this idea that Tyson Fury is going to get himself in immaculate, that Tyson Fury is going to be in better shape this time than he was last time. The reason I'm not convinced is because he had 2 training camps last time. He trained himself into the ground. He was his lightest weight for 5 years. A guy at his age who lives the way that he does and overeats and drinks and does all this type of stuff, and he's been doing it for years, it takes a toll on your body. For a guy like that to be able to get himself down to his lightest weight for 5 years must have taken an immense effort, a colossal effort. I don't think he can make that kind of effort this time. However, what I will say is that it's possible that Tyson Fury overtrained for the first fight and left it all in the gym. You've got Andy Lee saying that Tyson Fury wasn't in the best shape he could have been in because of the lack of sparring. And he says that's why Fury didn't follow up when he had Usyk hurt in the 6th. Well, we'll see about that in their rematch. But I'm skeptical because, again, he had those 2 camps. And there wasn't a massive amount of time between the camps. So he would have still kept good stamina and good cardio and good boxing shape from the first camp. It wouldn't have completely dissipated in the, 3 or 4 weeks between the 2 camps. And he would have done some type of sparring, I have to imagine, for the second camp, even if it weren't head sparring, body sparring, could have been body sparring and what have you. A lot of pad work and a lot of stuff to compensate for the fact that he weren't doing a lot of sparring. So I'm skeptical about this claim. I mean, look, the Fury team have got to tell themselves whatever in order to get Tyson confident that he's not going to be subjected to the same things that happened last time. But we will see. And finally on this, you got Alexander Usyk, who's posting pictures of his training. He's obviously there on the left versus Tyson Fury now. Again, it's not a bodybuilding contest. If it was, AJ would be undisputed, undefeated champion now, right? It's not a bodybuilding contest. Alexander Usyk, some people are saying he looks more muscular, he looks bigger. But they literally say this before every single one of Usyk's heavyweight fights. I can't think of an Usyk heavyweight fight since the first AJ encounter where people haven't said, oh, he's piled loads of muscle on. Literally every time they say he's piled loads of muscle on. And then he weighs in at damn near the same weight. For the first AJ fight, second AJ fight, Dubois fight, first Fury fight. He's been pretty much the same weight or within a pound or 2. And they're doing it again. Oh, he's bulked up. He's huge now for the Tyson Fury rematch. We nearly thought that he actually did bulk up when he weighed in for the first Fury fight because they wrongly announced his weight. They announced it as 230 something rather than 220 something. Will this be the time? Usyk is nearly 38 years of age. Will this be the time when he actually does bulk up? Was he, or did he discover certain things in the first fight that made him think, you know what? I don't need to move that much. I'm going to put some extra weight on and go for the knockout earlier this time around. Did he download that kind of data? Did he make those kind of observations? I don't know. But to me, he looks like he always looks. He's a pure athlete. He's always in great shape. And Tyson Fury, Tyson Fury is a fantastic fighter. So I'm not saying this to try and deride him or anything like that. Again, this is a fight. It's not a bodybuilding contest, but for whatever it's worth, Tyson Fury still looks like 300 pounds of chewed bubble gum. It is what it is. All right. But let me know what you guys think. To your eyes, does Tyson Fury look, stronger and leaner and in better condition than he was for the first fight? I think we've got a Tyson Fury fanboy in the chat. Hamed says, Hatman, is this 50-50 as Fury if Fury is 270 lean? It's kind of a moot point or moot question because he's not lean. He might be 270. I'm thinking he's going to come in closer to 280 maybe. At least 275. And Fury weight isn't, in my view, as important as his mental and physical and tactical approach to the fight. If Tyson Fury goes out there with mean intentions, fighting the way he did, either against Steve Cunningham or better yet, in the Deontay Wilder rematch, the second fight, then I think he's in with a real shot. I would give Tyson Fury at least a 40% chance, because I always felt, even going into the first fight, that Tyson Fury had the ability to beat Usyk if he's aggressive. I said that going into the first fight. Obviously, I picked Usyk in the end, but I felt like if Fury really the reason I picked Usyk is because I didn't think Fury would dedicate himself to front foot attack. I thought he would try and fiddle his way through the early rounds, and that's what he did. And it backfired on him. I said in the many videos I did in the run up to the first fight that the reason that the back foot stuff won't work for Fury is because, or won't work over 12 rounds, is because he's going to end up getting tired fighting that way before Usyk does. And isn't that what happened? It's exactly what happened. He got tired before Usyk did. You can't allow Usyk to control the pace like that. And so, going back to the condition that Fury's in, I don't think he necessarily needs to be in better condition than he was in the first time. I just think he needs to manage his gas tank better. And you manage your gas tank better by controlling the pace of the fight, controlling the tempo of the fight. And that is achieved by a change in tactics, being front foot. Forget about the flicking jabs and throwaway punches, because Fury threw a lot of those in the first fight. He actually threw more punches than Usyk, but landed significantly less. So he was just, throwing so many throwaway shots. I think in the rematch, he needs to be a lot more intentional with his punches. Choose quality over quantity. I think that's what he should do. And if he does that, I think he's in with a real shot. If he doesn't do that, and look, even if he fights the way I'm describing, it's not guaranteeing him victory. This is elite level boxing at the end of the day, right? There are no guarantees, especially in heavyweight boxing. But I just think it will give him a better chance if he fights that way. If he really tries to, come out with a big jab, stick it on Usyk and just throw hard quality shots and not worry about quantity so much. Try and break Usyk down with power rather than, and he's got a long reach. He can knock Usyk off balance with heavy jabs and long right hands before he comes in with follow-up shots. So, yeah, that's what I think. Anyway, let's move on from this. In fact, no, before we move on from it, I just want to show you guys something. Show you something of Tyson Fury's mind games, because he is the master of mind games. Now, in the run-up to the fight, the first fight, Tyson Fury was banging on about how Usyk was a crybaby and how he had his shorts pulled up down near to his chest against Daniel Dubois. And the shot that dropped him wasn't a low blow. I mean, all of that is complete and utter. Yeah, it's absolute bull. Because here we've got Usyk's shorts in the Dubois fight. You can clearly see the top of his belly button. So Tyson Fury talking rubbish. But here's the mind games. Where is Fury's belly button in the Usyk fight? This guy actually had his boxing trunks pulled up damn near to his chest. You see how high his trunks were? So you're accusing a guy of having, you know, illegally high shorts when he didn't. And then you come in with illegally high shorts. Incredible. To protect his midriff. Maybe he knew that Usyk was going to target his body. So he wanted to protect himself. Or maybe it's some type of weird Fury reverse psychology. It didn't work anyway. But yeah, Tyson Fury coming in, extremely high shorts. And in fact, I remember when he fought Steve Cunningham. You guys remember that fight? His shorts were extremely high in that one as well. Like crazy high against Steve Cunningham. Unbelievably high. So, yeah, just an example of Tyson Fury mind games. Oh, this guy's a crybaby. He got hit with a legitimate body shot. He only landed on his shorts because his shorts were pulled up to his chin nearly. And then he turns up like this. Unbelievable. And again, there's Usyk's shorts in the Dubois fight. It's cap. BS. And in fact, I forgot to show you guys this. Tyson Fury and Usyk at the weigh-in for the first fight. Yeah? That's Fury for the first fight. Excuse me. No, it's not what I'm looking for. Where's the picture I'm looking for? Okay, that's Fury now. All right. And this is Fury before the first fight. So compare. Now, compared to the first fight. Looks a lot heavier to me. All right, let's talk about Frank Warren, Tyson Fury's promoter. Normally, I wouldn't pay any attention to his predictions, but this guy has inserted himself in the discourse ahead of this fight, where, in my view, he's got no business being involved. He was a panelist on a TNT program where they were discussing the first fight and this upcoming rematch. Nobody else, there was no representatives from what I can remember of Alexander Usyk, but there was a representative of Tyson Fury, which was Frank Warren, and he was trying to dominate the conversation and steer the conversation. And anybody who tried to say that they thought Usyk was going to win the rematch, or anybody who gave a different view of the first fight to Frank Warren, he was trying to talk over them and bully them. You know what Frank Warren's like in conversations. He always acts like he's some kind of tough guy or gangster. He's like a man in his 70s who's frail as anything. But somehow he thinks he can talk in a disrespectful and domineering fashion in front of actual boxers. It's crazy. I always thought that was crazy. But anyway, Frank Warren, you can see him here. Oh, well, this is Frank Warren, but this is not the picture I was looking for. This is when Frank Warren actually did a bit of acting in Star Wars. Any of you guys managed to catch Frank Warren in Star Wars? Yeah, he was in Star Wars here. But no, this is what I wanted to show you. Frank Warren's prediction for the rematch. He says, Tyson Fury will stop him. Okay, well, it's heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen. I'm not completely dismissing the possibility that Tyson Fury could stop Alexander Usyk, and I'm certainly not dismissing the possibility that Usyk could stop Tyson Fury because he nearly did it last time. And how much damage did he take last time? A lot. How much has that affected him? Okay, so anyway, Frank Warren thinks or says that Tyson Fury is going to stop Usyk. But let's rewind back to May last year. What was Frank Warren saying then ahead of the first fight? Well, this is what he was saying. Tyson Fury knocks Usyk out. That was his prediction first time. And here's another example. Tyson's going to knock him out. Frank Warren predicts Fury Usyk immediately after 800K purchase. You can see that 6 months ago. So the first one was a year ago, then 6 months ago. That was Frank Warren's prediction. How did that work out for you, Frank? But yeah, it's heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen. And Tyson Fury can certainly hurt Usyk. He showed that last time. They can both hurt each other. So we'll see what happens. All right, moving on from Tyson Fury. I will come to your comments and questions. Shout out to anybody who's left a super chat. I will catch up with that in just a second, just a moment, if there are any super chats there. So this news broke in the past couple of days. The British Boxing Board of Control have ordered Moses Itauma to fight David Adeleye. David Adeleye is the English heavyweight title holder. So he has to defend against Moses Itauma. You can see here, this is a screenshot from the British Boxing Board of Control website. It says the stewards decided to put out the above contest to purse bids to be submitted in accordance with the terms and conditions to the board's head office by 12 noon on Wednesday, the 8th of January, 2025. The contest to take place by the end of May, 2025. So less than a month before purse bids for this one. Now, on the face of it, I like the fight. Moses Itauma versus a domestic rival in David Adeleye. However, Itauma is fighting Dempsey McKean on the Usyk Fury undercard. And Dempsey McKean has fought at, I want to say, world level when he took on Filip Hrgovic. He lost that fight by stoppage in the 12th round. And Dempsey McKean previously has been ranked in the top 10 of at least one of the major sanctioning bodies. He no longer is, presumably because of inactivity, because he hasn't fought since his loss to Filip Hrgovic. So with inactivity, they can drop you out the rankings. In any event, Adeleye is coming off a good win over domestic rival Sol Dakers. It was obviously for the English heavyweight title. I believe Dakers was the holder going into that one. But if you look at the heavyweight rankings here, and this is why I'm kind of skeptical about whether Itauma will actually go ahead with the Adeleye fight. I guess it depends on his options after this McKean fight, if he actually gets past McKean. So you'll see here that Moses Itauma is ranked number 6 by the WBO. Now, you could argue that he shouldn't be ranked that high by the WBO, nor should he be ranked as high as number 10 by the WBA, or even number 14 by the IBF, given his relatively poor opposition so far. I mean, it's not opposition that's any worse than you would expect for a guy who's only 10-0, but nevertheless, is it really opposition that should warrant such high rankings? Anyway, the point I want to make here is that Itauma is ranked in the top 10 by, what is it here, at least 3 of the sanctioning bodies, of the major sanctioning bodies, but David Adeleye isn't ranked in the top 10 of any of them. So if Itauma beats Dempsey McKean, presumably he's going to be looking to try, if it's feasible, to break Mike Tyson's record and become the youngest heavyweight champion in history. He's got until May 2025 to do so. And so it will be a matter of whoever wins the Usyk Fury rematch either being stripped of belts or vacating belts, and then Itauma getting a shot at a vacant title, or Frank Warren deciding to match Moses Itauma against Daniel Dubois. But I don't think the turnaround will be quick enough, because Dubois is fighting Joe Parker in February. He's not going to fight Moses Itauma, 2.5 months after that, is he? So Itauma's only hope really is for belts to get fragmented and for him to get a chance at one of the vacant straps. And I have to imagine that's what he'll be looking to do. And even if he doesn't go that route, he might be looking to fight somebody in the top 10 anyway, even without a vacant belt on the line. And therefore, David Adeleye wouldn't be in the running for that. So, yeah, I'm skeptical about whether that fight will happen next, whether Itauma will want to fight for the English heavyweight title if he beats Dempsey McKean, especially if he blasts McKean out and does a much better job on him than, let's say, Filip Hrgović did. Styles make fights, obviously, but the confidence that Itauma's going to have if he dispatches of McKean quickly and the confidence that his team are going to have in him will probably lead to them matching him, as I say, with a top 10, top 15 opponent rather than David Adeleye. And as for Adeleye, the fight I want to see him in, if he can't get Itauma, right, who he's mandated to fight, to defend his English title against, if he can't get Itauma, I'd love to see him fight Johnny Fisher. And the good news is Eddie Hearn says that he's well up for that fight. Obviously, Johnny Fisher's got to get past Dave Allen. I think he will. Some of you guys don't think he will, but I personally think he'll get past Dave Allen without too much trouble. Could be wrong, but we'll see. And if he does get past him, yeah, I'd like to see David Adeleye versus Johnny Fisher. That's the fight I'd like to see. Maybe they could do that for, well, it would be, surely, because, well, presumably David Adeleye is not going to vacate his English heavyweight title if Moses Itauma don't fight him for it. Then it could be Johnny Fisher versus Adeleye English heavyweight title. The British heavyweight champion currently is still Fabio Wardley. He hasn't vacated it. Depending on who he fights next, he might choose to. Again, if it's a top 10 guy, if it's a ranking match, some type of eliminator, you might say, you know what? I'll give the British heavyweight title up. Maybe let Adeleye and Fisher fight for it rather than the English. So, yeah, I'll come to your questions on this in a second. Itauma versus Adeleye. And if that fight did happen, I actually think that Itauma Adeleye is quite an interesting fight, stylistically. Itauma, I think, is the better talent. But Adeleye is strong. He's explosive. He hits hard, as we saw in his last fight with Sol Dakers. So I certainly wouldn't be writing him off in the fight. I think he suffered from a lack of tough experience, experience in tough fights against Fabio Wardley. I think his spirit was willing, but his body wasn't really used to being under that kind of stress. So I think that played a part in his defeat to Fabio Wardley, because watching that fight back the other day, it was actually more competitive than I remember. Even in the 5th round, I remember Adeleye landed some nice shots and what have you. So, yeah, stylistically, I think Itauma versus Adeleye is an interesting fight. I would favor Itauma, but I wouldn't count Adeleye out. All right, on to some more heavyweight news here. Some of you guys will know about this. On Saturday in Monaco, we've got Chev Clark challenging for the European Cruiserweight title. In fact, is Chev Clark already European Cruiserweight? No, it's vacant, excuse me. It's on the screen there. What am I looking at? So vacant European Cruiserweight title. Chev Clark is challenging for it on Saturday. On the undercard is Eddie Hearn's new heavyweight signing from Australia. This gentleman, Tera Moana. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Tera Moana Jr. And the reason that he's only got one name on there is because apparently his first name and last name are the same. Tera Moana, Tera Moana. And Tera Moana is a bit of a terror. If you watched him in the Olympics, he fought Bakadir Jalilov in the quarterfinals and lost on points. But he gave it a good go. He's big, 6'6". He's rough. From what I saw in the Jalilov fight, he takes a good shot, because those left hands from Jalilov normally stretch people out. Yeah. People are usually hurt, or they're going down, or they're knocked out cold, like poor Richard Torres. When he fought Jalilov the first time, he got iced when that big left hand landed. But Tera Moana was able to take those shots like it was nothing. He ate those punches like Pac-Man. So this is the first interesting heavyweight signing that Eddie Hearn has made in quite some time. Years, actually. No disrespect to Justice Hooney, but as it stands right now, he doesn't appear to be a special talent or a talent that's that promising. Maybe he will develop over time and mature into a really good heavyweight. But as it stands right now, I haven't been that impressed by Justice Hooney. So I'm not going to say he's that interesting as it stands right now as a prospect. But Tera Moana is interesting. Anybody who can walk through Jalalov's punches like he did and land his own and be competitive is definitely worth a look. He is a little bit crude, but we've seen plenty of crude fighters over the years go on to have successful professional boxing careers. So make sure you check him out. He's currently 4-0. And as I say, he'll be fighting on the undercard of Chev Clark tomorrow night. Again, I'm going to get to your comments and questions in a second. But first of all, I'm going to draw your attention to this. I did a poll on my channel asking the question, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, do you care if it doesn't happen? 87% of you said no. 13% of you said yes. Now, there was somebody in the comments who said people are going to watch the fight. Basically saying that all the individuals who voted no are capping. As much as they act like they're not interested, they're going to watch. This fight sells out a stadium. This is basically the gist of what the guy was saying. But he's missing the point, because the question isn't pertaining to whether you'll watch the fight or not. It's pertaining to whether you'll be disappointed if the fight doesn't happen. He gave the example of Kell Brook versus Amir Khan. He said people were saying that fight was past its sell-by date, but they still sold out an arena, I think, and people bought it on pay-per-view. There was still lots of interest. Yeah. But again, the question is, if Kell Brook and Amir Khan hadn't happened, would people have been bitterly disappointed? I personally think there would have been more disappointment for that than there would be for this Eubank Jr. Conor Benn fight, because these guys are not even in the same weight class. Amir Khan and Kell Brook were the same weight class, and they'd sparred in the past. I think maybe when they were amateurs or whatever. So it was a more relevant rivalry. And it was kind of like the modern version of the Ricky Hatton Jr. Witter rivalry. They never fought. Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe, they never fought as well. But Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, they're several weight classes apart. And this fight has just been forced down our necks. So yeah, if it happens, of course I'm going to watch it. I want content for my channel. So yes, I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to make videos about it and all that kind of stuff if it happens. But if it doesn't happen, am I going to be disappointed? Am I going to feel like we missed out, or I missed out as a boxing fan, or we missed out as a boxing community if that fight doesn't take place? Not at all. Not even in the slightest. I won't lose a wink of sleep. I won't feel disappointed. I won't feel sad or like, oh, what a shame that fight didn't happen. I literally don't care. Yeah. If it happens, I'll watch it. But if it don't, I guess the best way to describe it is I'm indifferent. Yeah. In fact, I more don't want it to happen than do. But I want to say that the question pertained to people's indifference about the fight rather than whether they hated the fight. That's what I meant to say. And I'm taking it to mean that the majority of my subscribers are indifferent about whether this fight happens or not. If it happens, yeah, they'll watch it. If it doesn't happen, they don't really care. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. And as I've said previously, there is an impasse at the moment over the split, with Eubank Jr. demanding 55% with 45 going to Conor Benn, obviously. I think that's perfectly reasonable. Perfectly reasonable, given the fact that Eubank Jr. is the more proven commercial entity than Conor Benn. He's fought for world titles. He's world title against George Groves. He's beaten the likes of James DeGale. He fought Billy Joe Saunders. He fought Matt Korobov, who was a high-level fighter at one point. He obviously fought Liam Smith, who's a former world champion, beat him in their rematch. So he's fought the better competition, beat the better competition, had multiple pay-per-views, made a lot more money. He is the bigger commercial entity. On top of that, when he signed up for the first fight, which presumably might have been 50-50, I'm not sure what the split was for the first date for that fight. Then Conor Benn was found to have an illegal substance in his sample twice. And Eubank Jr. feels very aggrieved about that. And he only wanted to go ahead. He was only willing to go ahead to fight Conor Benn on that initial date if he received some extra money. And how Conor Benn acts like Eubank Jr. is a scumbag for that is beyond my understanding. I mean, he's lucky that Eubank Jr. was willing to go through the fight at all. Bear in mind, there was a catch weight for that fight. So, no, I think Eubank Jr. is being more than fair. And, truth be told, he doesn't need the money. He's already a millionaire and he grew up rich as well. They both grew up rich. But it seems like the person who's more desperate for the fight is Conor Benn. And if that's the case, drop the ego, take the 45%, get the fight that you want. Anyway, let's move on from this show. Get to your questions and comments. Let's pop out the chat here. Shout out to Matt for the super chat. He says, did you hear about the drones? I'm in the dark. Please fill me in on that, Matt, but shout out for the super chat. And shout out again for another super chat. He says, also, I am not a big fan of Richard Torres Jr. I don't think he'll go anywhere as a heavyweight. Okay, fair comment. He's certainly being moved very slowly under the radar, isn't he? Richard Torres Jr. They're definitely not in a rush with him, Top Rank. He's fighting pie after pie after pie after pie. And this is a guy who is an Olympian. So maybe his promoter, Aram, thinks that there's chinks in his armor, thinks there's vulnerabilities there that he wants to protect, particularly after what happened to Jared Anderson. In fact, Jared Anderson might be the fight to make over the next year or so for Richard Torres. Two top-ranked guys, in-house fight. Why not? See what Anderson has left, have them fight each other to see who's worth backing thereafter as a heavyweight contender. But yes, shout out to Matt again for the 2 super chats that he sent there. Okay, Matt says there are unidentified drones flying all over the US, the size of cars, in the hundreds and thousands. I don't know. I'll check it out after the stream. Haven't heard of that. Goozy says little green men are visiting us again, but in drones this time. Well, I wonder, right? Because a lot of the technology that's in the public domain now has surely been, accessible or available to the government and the military for much longer. So drones were surely being used by the government and the military long before they let us know that they existed. And so maybe at least some UFO sightings in the past, in the 90s or 80s or whatever, were actually drones. Anybody ever considered that? Robert Kelly says, Jared Anderson for me is more than capable of replicating Dubois in bouncing back, even suffering another slip along the way. I'm still with Jared. He can do big things in boxing. Or if the desire is there. Because even before the defeat to Martin Bakole, he was talking about he wants to retire by the age of 27. And we haven't heard anything from him since the defeat to Bakole. He's gone missing just like Filip Hrgović went missing after his Dubois defeat. Pro Cala says, do you think David Tua is the best heavyweight to never win a world title? Definitely not. Because he lost to Ike Ibeabuchi, who also never won a world title. So you'd have to put Ibeabuchi above him. And Ibeabuchi, by the way, has he had his comeback fight yet? The guy's like in his 50s or something. Fault Line says, who would you pick? A nearly 38-year-old Usyk versus a 19-year-old Moses Itauma? I'd pick Usyk. I think he's still got the know-how. 24 says, no, it was cancelled. Oh, Ibeabuchi's fight was cancelled. Damn, you can't be happy about that. I wonder why. Because, you know, it was in some obscure location in Nigeria. I wouldn't have thought that the regulations would be that strict. The rules and regulations. Shout out to G-Man in the chat. He says, Hatman, you see Itauma versus McKean face-off. Not going to lie, and I don't mean to sound harsh. The host the zone got was awful. I could only watch about 2 minutes. Yeah, I mentioned that in, I think it was the live stream I did yesterday or maybe the day or two before. I put it on for about 2 minutes as well, and I had to turn it off. I couldn't watch that host. I couldn't do it. Why do they do it? Will says, sorry if you've mentioned it, but thoughts on this Klitschko comeback malarkey? I don't understand why he didn't try to come back when he was 46. You know, because Father Time really gets onto you at these kind of ages. The man's nearly 50. So if he wanted to give himself a better chance, why not come back when he was 46 and beat Foreman's record? Strange. Shout out to Get Up Again for the super chat. He says, is there a spiritually, I guess you meant to say spiritual connection with Usyk and Ali? Oh, there might be. Certainly an interesting coincidence that they share the same birthday. And even though Usyk, I've mentioned this before, doesn't speak much English, he's broken English at best, I want to say that right now, he's the most charismatic heavyweight in boxing. And of course, Muhammad Ali was extremely charismatic. It's one of the things he was known for. Shout out to someone for the super chat. Also, big up, Get Up Again. Shout out to Charles B in the chat. Big up every time. Someone says, what do you think of Myris Breedis recently on his YouTube channel picking Fury 60% to beat Usyk in a rematch? Everybody's got their views, right? Somebody mentioned it a week or so ago in another live stream that Myris Breedis is picking Tyson Fury to beat Usyk. You know, some people are picking Fury, some people are picking Usyk. Same as the first time, really. Paulie Malignaggi, who picked Fury the first time, is actually picking Usyk this time. But the only pundit who I'm really interested in, the only pundit whose prediction I'm really interested in is Duke McKenzie, simply because he's on a roll right now. Duke McKenzie picked Usyk not only to beat Fury, but to beat him up in the first fight. He got that right. He picked Daniel Dubois to stop AJ. He got that right. And he's picking Usyk to beat Tyson Fury again, even more decisively this time. Now, I'm sure Duke McKenzie's got predictions wrong in his life, like we all have, but he seems to be very focused on the heavyweight division right now, and he obviously knows what he's looking at. So Check out Duke McKenzie's prediction for the fight. Shout out to Matt again for the super chat. He says, to give Fury no chance in this fight is foolish. On any boxing analyst's part, I can see Fury winning, but I still have it as Usyk. Yeah, I mean, Duke McKenzie is not saying that Fury's got no chance. He's just saying that he heavily favors Usyk. Says Fury can win the fight. He's basically giving him a puncher's chance. Says if Fury comes out with one big shot against the run of play, catches Usyk, then yeah, anything can happen. It's heavyweight boxing, but he feels strongly that Usyk is going to win, even more strongly than he did going into the first fight. And he was very confident. If you ever saw his prediction on TalkSport ahead of the first Usyk Fury fight, he was very, very confident that Usyk was going to do a job. And he was very, very confident as well. I mean, remember, hindsight is a wonderful thing. Duke McKenzie was absolutely adamant that Daniel Dubois was going to smash AJ to bits. Now, there were some people, many people, who were picking Dubois to win. It was a minority, but let's say 30 or 40, let's say 30% were picking Dubois to win. But the 30% who were picking Dubois to win weren't expecting him to, or most of them anyway, completely demolish AJ in a one-sided fight. But Duke McKenzie was adamant that it's all Dubois. Adamant from day one. He was like, no, I can't see how AJ wins the fight. And he was right. So, yeah, he's on a roll, Duke McKenzie, when it comes to the heavyweights, at least. Shout out to Matt again for the super chat. He says, also, I have Dubois beating Parker. If Zhang can drop him twice, Dubois will stop him. And I don't think he'll let it slide like Zhang. Yeah, I think Dubois is going to stop Joseph Parker as well. I agree with you. There are a lot of people acting like Dubois Parker is a 50-50. I mean, I'm not saying it's ridiculous to think that, but personally, I reckon Dubois is going to smash him to bits. I think that Parker will last longer than AJ did. I think he's physically tougher than AJ. And I think he's got slightly better instincts. But ultimately, I don't think he's got the firepower to keep Dubois off. And I don't think his will is going to be strong enough to keep Dubois off. Dubois has got a great jab. He's got quick feet. And because his feet are quick, it actually compensates for his kind of average hand speed. He doesn't have slow hand speed, but he's got maybe kind of average hand speed. But because he springs in with the shots, it adds extra speed to them, if you know what I mean. So, you know, his feet spring in while he's throwing the shot. It adds extra speed to it and extra force. So, yeah, I just think that the ferocity of Dubois' attacks and his jab and his quick feet is going to be too much for Parker. And I see him stopping Parker somewhere around the 8th or the 9th. I reckon he takes Parker out. Charles B says, Hatman, can you see Okolie winning a belt at heavyweight? Well, if Kubrat Pulev can pick up a belt at 43 or whatever he is, then I'm sure Lawrence Okolie can. Obviously, that's a regular belt. But, you know, if the belts get fractured and there's 4 vacant titles, let's say Usyk wins the rematch, he then retires, belts get scattered. In that scenario, yeah, maybe Lawrence Okolie could pick one up, depending on who he fights for the vacant belt. Shout out to Matt for the super chat again. He says, I think this version of Dubois wins versus Usyk right now as well. Well, we'll see how Usyk looks in the Fury rematch. But obviously, Father Time is undefeated. Usyk is not the guy that he was when he fought Anthony Joshua the first time. He's not as good as that anymore. He can't be. How can you be 38 as an elite athlete and be just as good as you were when you were 32 or 28? It's not going to happen. Okay, you're not going to be as good when you're pushing 40 as you would be when you're pushing 30 if you've been an elite athlete all the time, the whole time. It'll be different if you maybe started boxing late and didn't turn pro till you were like 28, 29, had a short amateur career. Then you might actually peak in your mid to late 30s. But that's not the case for Usyk. Usyk turned pro in his 20s, cleaned out the cruiserweight division, moved up to heavyweight in his early 30s. There's no way that he could be as good now or better now. And it's weird that people are trying to push that narrative in the boxing media, that Usyk is as good now as ever. You see, they want Tyson Fury to get the maximum amount of credit if he wins the rematch. That's why they're trying to say that Usyk is as good now as ever. He's obviously not as good now as ever. It's ridiculous to say that. But because they're such Fury fanboys, they want to make out as though it's the best version of Usyk that's ever existed. And if Fury loses, of course, the excuse they have is, oh, Fury wasn't at his best. He's past it. You see how that works? The reality is neither Fury nor Usyk is at their best anymore. But that's been obvious for years, right? Should have been obvious to anyone. But yeah, Usyk right now versus Dubois. I want to see how Usyk looks, and Dubois' last few fights have been very impressive performances, but they have flattered him to some extent because he was going up against guys that had poor defense, right? Every single one of the guys that he's fought in his last 3 fights, poor defense. Miller, no defense to speak of. Hrgovic, again, 0 defense, and AJ's defense was shockingly bad as well. Usyk has fantastic defense. And so once you're blocking a lot of Dubois' shots or you're using your feet to stay out of range, now he's hesitating. Because when he does throw, he's getting countered. So, I would give Dubois a better chance against Usyk now than he had in the first fight because of the experience he's gained and the confidence he's gained and what have you. But I'm not ready yet to pick Dubois to beat Usyk. I'm not yet ready to do that. But there will come a time, obviously, when Usyk is so far past his best that Dubois will be able to beat him. I'm just not sure whether that time has come yet. We'll see how Usyk looks in the Fury rematch. Now, Tom says Dubois hasn't improved and Usyk hasn't deteriorated significantly enough since they fought. You forget Dubois barely won a round. Yeah, the technical aspect cannot be overlooked. And the previous time that Daniel Dubois fought a southpaw, Kevin Lerena, he was on the deck several times. So maybe Dubois just doesn't like southpaws. Maybe he struggles with southpaws. Jimbo says Dubois is nearly 20 pounds bigger now. Is he? 20 pounds bigger now than when he fought Usyk. If he is, I don't know whether that's even a good thing. Versus Usyk, that is. It might be good against other fighters, but I don't think he's nearly 20 pounds heavier than he was against Usyk. Let me check. I'm going to go on his box rec now. Pretty sure he's not 20 pounds heavier. Let's have a look here. If I'm wrong, I'll stand corrected, but clicking on his box rec page now. For some reason, it's taking ages to load. What's my internet doing? Okay, here we go. So he was 248 against Joshua. 233 against Usyk. All right, so I guess he's 15 pounds or so heavier. But then, here's the thing. He was 240 against Lerena. So he came in light for the Usyk fight, deliberately light. So it's not that he was just much smaller back then in general. No, he took a lot of weight off specifically for the Usyk fight. Maybe because he wanted to try and keep up with Usyk's footwork. That's why he came in so light. Because again, against Trevor Bryan, he was 241. against Lorena, he was 240. Then he dropped 7 pounds for the Usyk fight. Came in at 233. So really, the version of Dubois we have today is about 8 pounds heavier than the version who fought Kevin Lorena. You know, when you're 6'5", 8 pounds is, it's not totally insignificant, but it's not really that much. So I guess the question would be, did Daniel Dubois get it wrong tactically in the Usyk fight by coming in so light? Again, he was 7 pounds lighter against Usyk than he was for his previous fight against Kevin Lorena. Was that a mistake? Matt says maybe Dubois was weight drained versus Usyk. Again, sometimes fighters, well, 24 says, how can you be weight drained at heavyweight? Well, it's not really being weight drained, it's overtraining is the best way to describe it. Because obviously fighters, heavyweights don't need to dehydrate themselves to make weight. But you can overtrain as a heavyweight, overdo it with the cardio and what have you, and leave the best of yourself in training camp and be a bit spent by the time fight night comes around. That can happen. Okay, Emrad, very good comment. He says Fury doesn't do the bicep pose because it will expose the bag of milk body. Yeah, Fury does this pose instead. Yeah. So he covers his love handles with this one. But he's done all right. You know, he's done very, very well for a guy with a bag of milk body. It has to be said. He's done very well. You know, I've overtrained myself several times in the past. And yeah, you just feel burned out. You lose energy, you feel burned out. And the last time I did it was in 2017. I lost a lot of weight in 2017 and I was training every day like a maniac, twice a day. I was doing loads of running in the morning, boxing gym sessions in the afternoon, and then I was doing long walks and sometimes jogs in the evening. So that's really 3 times a day. And just to tell you how hardcore the training was, I would do hill sprints for an hour every day, an hour of hill sprints on Streatham Common. Yeah, anyone who knows Streatham Common, I would run up that hill from the bottom of the hill to the top of the hill for an hour and walk down, sometimes jog down. Yeah, and I was doing that, going to the gym, training an hour and a half in the gym, boxing, and then doing, you know, some jogging or long walks at night. And my boxing training is very intense. Yeah, I don't do the kind of boxing training normal people do. I would do extremely intense boxing training. And after about, I want to say 7 weeks, 8 weeks of that, I was so burned out. I went in the gym and I couldn't even do 10 minutes on the bag. I was totally burned out, totally burned out. And I guess your testosterone level starts to drop when you're saturating your routine with all this cardio. Your testosterone could really drop. And that's what must have happened. Either it was the testosterone dropping because of too much cardio, or I had adrenal burnout or something. But the umbrella term that people use in the boxing game is you are overtrained. So I've done that several times, overtrained in the past. And what you need is rest. So after that particular time that I just described, I took like 2 weeks off without any type of training at all. And I was just like eating normally because I was on a hardcore diet as well. I mean, I was eating like, you know, lots of chicken, salad, and, you know, a few carbs here and there. It wasn't like a keto diet or anything like that. I was eating carbs, but I wasn't overdoing the carbs. Because as well as getting in shape, I was trying to get lean. Anyway, when I started eating normally again, after about 10 days, I want to say a week to 10 days, my energy levels shot through the flipping roof. It was crazy. I had such a spike in testosterone and energy that came to me after about 7 to 10 days after I stopped that maniacal training. It was insane. When I went back to the gym after that, I was literally bouncing all over the place. It's like I was 25 again. Yeah, I was in my late 30s. It was as if I was 25 again. I just had so much energy. So the secret to having a successful performance in a fight is timing your training so that you peak on fight night. Some fighters overshoot. Yeah? Is that even the right way to describe it? Maybe it is. But anyway, they peak too early. And they continue training after that. They mistime it, they peak too early, and they go into the ring and they're overtrained and they're tired, jaded, you know? The testosterone levels have dropped. Shout out to Benny Stacks for the super chat. So yeah, that can happen. Did that happen to Daniel Dubois against Usyk? Maybe, because he did come in very light. Very light. Imrad Arawak says, I didn't realize you were from the ends, bruv. I'm from Brixton. He says, I don't eat meat, but I used to race on mangoes. It's like rocket fuel, trust me. Well, they're high in sugar, right? Same here. Oh, you're from Brixton as well? Okay, we got some Brixtonites in the house here. What part of Brixton you from? Is somebody asking if I'm from Angeltown? No, Loughborough. As in Loughborough Junction, not Loughborough the town. In the home counties or wherever it is. Loughborough Junction. Shout out to Benny Stacks for the super chat again. It's like a Brixton reunion. Robert Kelly says, Ade got offended once when I told him that Faces nightclub was in Gants Hill and not Ilford. All right, that's random. Mr. Happy says, Dylan White's from Brixton too, right? Yes, he is. Well, he's from Jamaica, but, you know, he's lived in Brixton since he was like 11, 12 or whatever. Okay, somebody in the chat is claiming that Dennis McCann has just failed a VADA test. Seems like he was loving the juice or eating too many eggs. Is that actually true? Or do we have somebody trolling here? Chris Ward says Fury gets stopped this time, TKO 11. It's not an unreasonable prediction. He nearly got stopped in the 9th round last time. Okay, everybody's saying it's true. Failed a PED test. Oh dear. So it's not the Eddie Hearn fighter this time. McCann is Bricktop, right? And McGrail is Eddie Hearn. Troy says Dylan's always in Satay Bar, munching Thai green curry. Is he? I thought Dylan lives in Portugal these days. He's still hanging around Brixton. The Joker says White should fight Joyce next. G-Man says Michael Benson being bought by Ring Magazine means news is slower now. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with Michael Benson. I know Ring Magazine have bought his Twitter account, right? But is he working for Ring Magazine now and still tweeting from that account? Or they've bought his account as some type of power move and now he has to start a new Twitter account? Because somebody in the Element group said he's no longer working for TalkSport. So who's he working for then? The Joker says, has anyone ever seen Michael Benson? By the way, never seen him on a video. He might be a bit like Al Heyman. Pennant says, Hatman, who wins Dylan White versus Jarrell Miller now? Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller, definitely. G-Man says, no update since yesterday on Benson's Ring account. Yeah, Benson was so reliable as a boxing journalist for updates with his tweets. He was definitely the go-to boxing journalist on Twitter in terms of trending topics and trending news. War Jones says, who should Joe Joyce fight next, that man? Somebody mentioned Dylan White. You know, if Dylan White's interested in that one, wouldn't be a bad fight for him. Deontay Wilder. Not sure Deontay will be interested, but you know. Baby Uno says Usyk knows Fury will go for it this time. He will just let him gas out and finish him off later. What you reckon, Hatman? It's a risky strategy because if Fury applies the right kind of pressure, then he may not gas out. Yeah, if it's educated pressure, he might actually have more in his gas tank by the halfway stage than he did in the first fight. See, educated pressure is where you use your feet and you use feints and you use solid single shots to push your opponent back, intimidate them, and cause them to have to move all over the ring. Basically the inverse of what happened in the first fight. If Fury can turn the tables and get Usyk moving around all over the place, he doesn't necessarily need to throw a massive amount of shots. And to that point, Usyk threw less punches than Fury in the first fight. Did you know that? He threw less punches. But because he was applying smart pressure, he landed more punches than Fury. Yeah, he landed quite a lot more than Fury, but he threw less. Yeah? If you apply smart pressure, you can get the other guy to do all the moving around and he'll tire out. So Fury, if he can reverse, if he can turn the tables, then he won't necessarily gas by the halfway stage like he did last time. So it all depends on whether he can actually get that done, whether he can get Usyk into that position, whether he's got the technique and the foot speed and the timing and all that kind of stuff to apply that type of pressure. Somebody saying who wins, Luke Partridge or Oluwafemi. Is it Olufemi or Oluwafemi? Olaseni. That's Anthony Joshua, for those who don't know. Again, we'll see how Fury does against Usyk. Maybe Fury will be spent. Maybe the first fight took too much out of him. Maybe the training camp took too much out of him. We'll see. But the Fury who fought Usyk first time versus AJ, I pick Fury. But it remains to be seen whether that Fury still exists after the beating he took against Usyk first time. We'll see. Afro Soul says it's pronounced Olasheni. Oh, okay. S in Yoruba is SH in English. Oh, I never knew that. You learn something new every day. Shout out to Afro Soul. Olasheni. Yeah, never knew that at all. Like Sade. Okay. What about Igbo? Are S's pronounced like that in Igbo? Do you know? I like the Igbo movies. You know, the Igbo Nollywood movies. How come Igbo movies are so much better than Yoruba movies? Is that controversial? Because all the Nigerian movies I like and all the Nigerian actors I like, they're all Igbo. Like Mr. Ibu. Mr. Ibu is one of them. Sam Loco. Aki and Popo, are they both Igbo, or is one of them Yoruba and the other one's Igbo? Or are they both Yoruba? Okay, Afro Soul says Nollywood is an Igbo thing. Yorubas make movies too, but they're not as popular. Yeah, they're not. I've seen a couple Yoruba movies and they were trash. But the Igbo guys have always got some funny lyrics, like crazy lyrics. Paul McAllister says AJ's going to retire. His heart isn't in it anymore. You can tell. Yeah, maybe one more fight and then retire. Ward Jones says, has Miller lost any weight? Is he still 340, 360? No, he was around 300 pounds for the Andy Ruiz fight. So he lost quite a bit. It was around 300 for that fight. Waved says, do you want AJ to retire? Yes. AJ, you know, after that Dubois fight, I have to say that he should, I made a video about it at the time. AJ should retire. It was such a shambolic performance. It's like at the age of 34, nearly 35, I think he's 35 now. For you to still be making such fundamental errors and, you know, resulting in such a devastating beatdown, there's no way back at this age if you're still making errors like that. It's not like he just got caught with one big punch like Lennox Lewis in the first Hasim Rahman fight. No. He was making fundamental errors from the first round, and he repeated the errors throughout the fight. If you're doing that at 35, you're done. Seriously, and getting battered the way he was, you're done. Time to call it a day. Yeah, and he got ironed out. It wasn't like Ruiz. I mean, he was winning the first 2.5 rounds against Ruiz, dropped him, looked on course for victory. And then in that one, he just got caught and couldn't recover. Yeah. But he showed in the first fight, I said all along, he showed in the first fight that he does have the skills to beat Ruiz. It's just whether he had the stamina. That's all I was unsure about going into the Ruiz rematch. But I always said he had the skills because he showed it in the first 2.5 rounds of the first fight. Ruiz is slow-footed. But with Dubois, no, Dubois got quick feet. He's young. He's got a big jab. You know, he's mobile. No. AJ needs to leave that young boy alone. Okay, somebody, Pennant is asking me to check out Terra Moana. Yeah, I already spoke about him earlier on in the stream. He's fighting tomorrow night. Spoke about him, showed his BoxRec page and what have you earlier on in the stream. Fought Jalalov in the Olympics and what have you. Shout out to Seth for the super chat. He says, Hatman, is Sam Langford your pound for pound best in history? You know, I'm not really a fan of pound for pound because it's such an abstract concept. And boxing over time changes so much. There are far more weight divisions now than there were when Sam Langford was fighting. There are more belts and there are more participants. There are more professional boxers today, far more than there were when Sam Langford was fighting. So as great as Sam Langford was, it's really hard to compare, you know, his era to the modern era, or even any era really after, let's say, the 1960s. It's really hard to compare. And when you're doing pound for pound, it's like, well, how do you compare a heavyweight's pound for pound status to a welterweight's pound for pound status? Let's say a small heavyweight like Usyk, 6'3", 222 pounds. Does he get extra points in the pound for pound comparison because of the fact he's, 40 pounds lighter than the people he's fighting? Obviously, Sam Langford went through the divisions and up to heavyweight and all that kind of stuff. It was an amazing feat. But of course, Roy Jones Jr. did something similar, right? Roy Jones Jr. fought at junior middleweight and he went all the way up to heavyweight. So it was similar to what Sam Langford did. So Sam Langford was a great fighter, but I'm not really into pound for pound, truth be told. I don't really like to give pound for pound lists and all that kind of stuff because there are so many variables and it's such an abstract concept. If I ever talk about pound for pound, I'll talk about like maybe one guy at the moment in boxing. And even then, I don't like to mention it often for reasons I've given. But I don't do pound for pound lists, for example. It's too many variables. Let me get this donut out of here. Yes, some of us are not glued to the news 24/7, believe it or not. Chris Ward says, pound for pound is just a popularity contest. The top 10 are all great. Enjoy them. I agree. It is kind of a popularity contest. Hamed says, check boxing news. Bird denied a license. Chris Bird? Was he applying for a license? Oh, God, he must have money problems. Chris Bird is punch drunk. He's been punch drunk for years. I swear he's got CTE as well. He fought at middleweight after his, he actually competed at middleweight in the amateurs. As a pro, he might have turned pro at middleweight and then he moved up to heavyweight, which was a mad one. And he had success at heavyweight. And then very late on in his pro career, he moved back down to middleweight and it was disastrous. In fact, was it middleweight or light heavyweight he moved down to? It was somewhere between 160 and 175 he moved down to after his heavyweight career. And it was disastrous. So for him to try to get a license now, oh dear. He's punch drunk, probably got CTE. He must be desperate for money. AB says, Hatman, I still believe Joyce beats Dubois again. What's your thoughts? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Joyce is out of here. All right. I'm going to draw this one to a close, but as promised earlier on, we're going to close out with some more singing. Why not? And I told you I'm going to need to use this voice changer effect. Let's mute the background music. I need to use this voice changer effect for this one. Now, most of you will have heard this, but can you tell me who sung it? Can you tell me who sung this? It was a big song in the 80s. All right, let me activate the reverb and delay. All right. Reverb and delay, check. And then I'll just pitch my voice up here to as high as it will go. You'll see why in a second. here we go.
Is my voice sufficiently pitched up? Through the fire, to the limit, to the wall. For a chance to be with you, I gladly risk it all. Through the fire, through whatever come what may. For a chance of loving you, I take it all the way. Right down to the wire, even through the fire.
There you go. Shaka Khan. That's right, 24. Through the fire. Yes, Shaka Khan indeed. Kanye sampled it for Through the Wire. He did. Great song. Great video. God, I miss the 80s. Is there another song I could sing here before we close this one out? Yeah, we'll look here. I don't want to go over old ground. Some songs I've sung already on previous streams. How about this? Hang on. See, we could go the other way. We could go the other way. This is going to sound crazy. All right. So, situated. All right, again, gold star for anybody who can tell me who this artist is I'm about to imitate now. Need not pretend you got naked eyes looking at men. Even if guys naked eye looking at them, F that ish. I got them girls and Gwen. Seems like you're mesmerized by men or you're obsessed with them. Go ahead and have Ben and Ken. Hey yo, you low. You come back and you talk about you now sing song with Frankie Paul from Dance Hall. But you did not know you should not meet and greet and date and hug up and kiss up RuPaul. Bocat man fi drops to show you something tall. But your name between him and between your bars and RuPaul. And you can have Frankie and surround yourself with a few Paul. Welcome your downfall. People look good, people look keen. You can't mix me up in a debate man scene. Fat Gwen Stefani, yeah, she was my queen. Ready if you go wipe out this fag with pure laser beam. Look good, people look keen. You can't mix me up in a debate man scene. Killaton forgot nothing, your weirdest dream. Warlord straight like a henny pants scene. Who's that? Some people are going to be like, what the hell was that? Afro Soul says, never was a fan of reggae. Nah, not Sizzler. Bounty Killer, there you go. Suzuki for life got it. Bounty Killer. That's what it is. No, not Beanie Man. His nemesis, Bounty Killer. Bounty not afraid and a little dread boy. Bun lady sham me say go a red boy. Background raw large you is a dead boy. You must be sick in your head boy. Bounty not afraid and a little dread boy. Bun lady sham me say go a red boy. Background raw large you is a dead boy. You must be sick in your head boy. What do you mean? Jonathan Finch said, sounded like M. Dot. Give it a rest. M. Dot, you know. 24 says, surprised you did A Boogie the other day. Yeah, I like that song. The A Boogie song. I'm drowning. I'm drowning. Wrist so icy, wonder why she likes me. I'm drowning in water. I just bought a cube and dipped it in a fountain. Wrist so icy, wonder why she like me. So I'm drowning in water. I just bought a cube and dipped it in a fountain. Everywhere that I go, it's a light show. I'm surrounded. Bust down, bust down, bust down, bust down, bust down. So I'm drowning. I just bought a Cuban ring and dipped it in a fountain. Chain so heavy, I feel like I'm holding up a mountain. Everywhere that I go, it's a light show. I'm surrounded. Bust down, bust down, bust down, bust down, bust down. So I'm drowning. I got all my, cause I don't go nowhere without them. If they don't let us in, they might throw shots at the bouncer. Activist medicine got it straight from out the doctors. I'm with RJ, but I call him Wayne cause he's a shotter. Pick up the ladder, put it in the gun, make the non-stretch. Cause with attitude, but we come straight out of High Bridge. I'm gonna make her, he's wet when she see the way I flex. I'm gonna win a Grammy, move my family out the projects. We went from chilling in the projects to making projects. We was trying to get to the top and they tried to stop us. I talk for myself, I don't need no voucher. She looked at my wrist and she looked at 100,000. Wrist so icy, wonder why she like me. I'm drowning in water, I just bought a Cuban, dipped it in a fountain. Everywhere that I go, it's a light show. I'm surrounded. Bust down, bust down, bust down, bust down, bust down. I'm drowning. I just bought a Cuban ring and dipped it in a fountain. Chain so heavy, I feel like I'm holding up a mountain. Everywhere that I go, it's a light show. I'm surrounded. Bust down, bust down, bust. I mean, I liked that song the first time I heard it, but I went to go listen to his other music and it all sounded like trash. It's like he hit lightning in a bottle with that song. The rest of his songs, horrible. But yeah, that one, he found the formula. Struck gold. Some people saying they like Future, Shabba, Shabba Mother Pot. The Shabba that I know, ting-a-ling-a-ling, school bell a ring, knife and fork a fight for dumpling, booyaka, booyaka, for Shabba ranking. That's the Shabba I know. Yeah. Ting-a-ling-a-ling, dance all it swing. Wave says, what's your favorite Vibes Cartel song, Hatman? It's the one I sing all the time. The Movado diss. Last Man Standing. That's my favorite. Me are the last man standing. Rifle shot move the goalie banking. Gone at your barber shop and trim. Next year, none of the more damn sting. Me are the last man standing. I'll be a big matic Gaza man bring. Me no coward like Bounty on him. Lagancha on YouTube, watch the damn film. Lisa hype, Baba boy embarrass him fans. Me can't believe him run with him bands. Him sing one tune 2 time. While teacher run out with 1,000,000 songs. Girls a show about the casket. 2009 no make no more plans. Shoot him in front of a dance. Shot bite him like my dance. Why you dress up in a police suit for? Me never seen a policeman go war. He run out in a full camouflage knapsack full of clip 2 blood clot SLR. You bring 2,000 man go sting, and I just shot him bring. When him see a beer things, him run like Usain a Beijing. That mean. Yeah. And even more entertaining than Vybz Kartel's music is his Instagram page since he got released from prison. His Instagram page is hilarious. Shout out to Boxing on the Edge in the chat. Brooklyn in the house. Imrad says, what do you know about DMB, Hatman? I'm not really a big DMB guy, but one of my good friends is a DMB man. He still makes DMB tunes to this day. To this day. You know, Vybz Kartel was so prolific before he got locked up. The man must have, I mean, a lot of them reggae artists, dancehall artists are extremely prolific. But Vybz Kartel was just on a mad one before he got locked up. I mean, the amount of music he was putting out was insane. Insane. "24 says random North London Turkish ting as his missus." Yeah. Sidem. Her name is Sidem. Why does Sidem sound like a Jamaican word? I assume that's actually her real name, but yeah, Sidem. Wave says, do you remember when he got locked up? Yeah, I remember when he got locked up. Over the disappearance and presumed death of some guy called Lizard. Poor Lizard. They never found a body, but Kartel and I think several others were charged with an M for that. I think they found blood and forensics and whatever, and they were charged with an M. And they found messages and whatever. Apparently they cut the guy's throat like a damn animal. And somehow, Vybz Kartel, with the assistance of the Privy Council, overseen by King Charles, they intervened and got Vybz Kartel released. I mean, explain that. Why would King Charles care so much about Vybz Kartel, some random Jamaican dancehall artist? They'd want to intervene and get him released out of a Jamaican prison. That's got to be one of the most random things ever. And if you go to Vybz Kartel's Instagram page, it's actually got a Union Jack on there. Last time I checked anyway, it's got a Union Jack on there and it says, long live the king. Well, he would say that, right? Because the king got him released. Long live the king. With a British flag. Why did King Charles get Vybz Kartel? It's so random. Yes, it's true, Waved. Westwood was always dodgy. There were stories going back about him from people I knew for years, from 19, long time. Afro Soul says, Vybz looks like a zombie now. What makes men bleach their skin? Well, Vybz has got Graves' disease now. That's why he's got a big swollen face. And that's probably a combination of all the bleaching, messing up his system, and also the unsanitary, disgusting conditions in that Jamaican prison that he was in for all those years. Now he's been left with Graves' disease and a big bloated face and a skinny body. It's weird. 24 says the royal family bumping Vibes Cartel up in Buckingham. Surely not. Surely not. But, you know, as far as other dancehall artists, I like the back and forth between Beanie Man and Bounty Killer over the years. Bounty Killer used to call him Betweenie Man. Do I like Movado? Yeah, Movado's all right. He had a couple tunes, you know. I'm so special. I'm so special, so special, so special. That's why I'm stay strapped with my 45 special. Jaff, you know. Dirty Mount can't trace nor detal. Afro Soul says they deported that fake Nigerian pastor in the UK. Who's that? But yeah, the Bounty Killer and Beanie Man back and forth was hilarious. There's nothing funnier than dancehall beef. Dancehall beef produces the funniest diss records. I'm sure they're not even intended to be funny. But just the way that Yardies talk and the insults they come up with, it's just hilarious. There's nothing funnier than Jamaican diss records. Miss Ivy little wash belly one day. When me a talk about the long mouth one day. In pan sanga call man chichi man when me see him in a video with a naked man. It's Beanie Man. Yeah, Ninja Man and Shabba was hilarious. Ninja Man's hilarious in general. Have you ever seen that film that Ninja Man did? I mean, that is crazy. There's a scene in this Ninja Man film where he's about to rob some place and he knocks on the door. And when the guy opens the door, Ninja Man talks in his version of an English accent. Have you seen that? Is it Third World Cop? It is the craziest English accent you've ever heard in your life. Oh my God. Yo, have you seen that? I mean, the only English accent that can compete with that one is Denzel Washington when he did that movie where he played like an English guy. That was very early on in Denzel Washington's career. Oh my God, that was appalling. Denzel Washington's English accent was literally criminal. A crime against humanity. Any of you guys seen that? Denzel Washington's English accent in that film he did early on in his career? Absolute shocker. For Queen and Country, yes, S.A, that's the one. That was a madness. Oh my gosh. What a stain on his record. That was horrifying. But yeah, Ninja Man, his English accent in that particular scene was... A Wave says, do you remember the Chichi Man song from T.O.K? Yup. T.O.K were big back in the days. When you cry, I cry I cry along with you when you smile. I smile, smile along with you. And maybe even more criminal, or just as criminal, as Denzel's English accent in that film, or Ninja Man's English accent, would be Brad Pitt's Jamaican accent. Can you see that? Brad Pitt's patois? Oh my gosh. Let me see if I can find Brad Pitt's patois, because that was just, oh my, no. How they even allowed that? Didn't his agent like pull him to the side or something and say, or pull the director to the side and say, this ain't a good idea? One of the worst accents I've ever heard. What film was that? Was it Joe Black? Where Brad Pitt did the Jamaican accent, the patois? Jimbo says Ninja Man's English accent was good. You must have not seen the same film, bro. Because Ninja Man's English accent was bizarre. That's how I'll describe it. It was bizarre. He was like, thanks a lot. Oh my gosh. Wave says, Hammond, did you watch Gladiator 2? No, I didn't watch that. Trash. Ridley Scott is maybe a 3-hit wonder. He's made loads of films and he's only about 3 of them have been any good in his whole career. And trying to do a sequel after like 20 years, no. Uh, 24 says the Brits can do good American accent, but Americans always mess it up. Yeah, because they don't hear our accents as often as we hear theirs, because we consume so much American media. So we can do their accents that they can't do ours. Although there's one comedian who does pretty good English accents, at least in small doses, and that is Godfrey. He's a Nigerian-American comedian. And he does the best Jason Statham I've heard. His Jason Statham is legitimately good. He did his Jason Statham in front of Jason Statham, and Jason Statham co-signed it and was rolling about laughing because it was that good. Shola says Godfrey's jokes. Yeah. Yeah, Godfrey's Nigerian. He's Nigerian. His Denzel's also the best Denzel I've ever heard, sorry. Godfrey's Denzel is crazy. In fact, there's a clip on Vlad where Vlad uses deepfake to turn Godfrey's face into Denzel's face. When he's doing the Denzel, it's a madness. He's got the best Denzel I've ever heard. And as I say, the best Jason Statham I've ever heard as well. And when he's doing the Jason Statham impression, I can't do a good Jason Statham. But when he's doing the Jason Statham impression, he says something like, he always wanted to see Jason Statham do a movie called The Librarian. I mean, he's done a film called The Beekeeper, right? So a film called The Librarian where, you know, Jason Statham is like a retired assassin or something, a retired hitman that works in a library. And there are some, you know, bad Russian mob guys making up noise in the library, and he walks over and he's like, you guys mind being quiet? I thought I told you guys to be quiet. I can't do Jason Statham. Adam, shout out to the To Adam for the super chat, he says Maidana versus Matisse. That's a fight I always wanted to see, but for some reason they never wanted to fight each other. Maybe it was, you know, loyalty because they're both Argentinian. I don't know, but I always wanted to see that fight. And I would probably go with Matisse. I'd probably go with Matisse. Both were tremendous punchers, but Matisse had some level of boxing skills. He could move a bit. So I'd probably just go with Matisse. What about you? Who would you pick in that fight? "24 says, I thought Godfrey was American. Fair enough. Yeah, he's what Black Americans today call a tether. They love dividing, right? Sort of categorized Black people who are not FBA, foundational Black Americans. They call them tethers. So they're tethered to the Black American community. They're not originals. Wow. Arawak says, I used to be the barber for the show Desmond's. All of them trims you see on that show are mine. Real talk. For real. Yeah, man. You must be older than me then. If you're a barber in for Desmond's. Joe Saunders says, have you ever worked on the doors in Tottenham? Never. Troy says, Hatman, you ain't old. I'm assuming you're around the same age as me, 80, 81. Not too far off. That's old. Who are you kidding? Still telling yourself you're young? I'm in my mid-40s. That's not young. In fact, a song just came to me. Troy says, speak for yourself, I'm young. Nah, you're not young. You're old as dust. Huh? Young at heart maybe, but not young in the physical. We all have a chronological age. We're old. Think about how old we are. I'm more than old enough to be Moses Itauma's dad. How about that? In fact, a lot of professional fighters I'm old enough to be their dad. They've got dads my age. A lot of these guys. That's old. "24 says 98 baby here." See, that's someone who's young still. 98. See, you know you're old when a song that came out 7 years ago is new to you. So like that A Boogie song, to me that's new. But to anyone who's actually young, that's an old school tune. That's a back in the days tune. To me, it's recent. Because when you get to this age, time goes so fast. 5 years is like 5 minutes. 5 years is like 5 months. Shout out to Cameron for the super chat. He says, do you think John Fury was behind the pullout of the Till fight just to get back at him for embarrassing him at the press conference? It's possible. It's possible. But if John Fury was behind it, then he would have to have an alternative fight for his son to take, because his son's not going to want to turn down the money, you know? So if it was his dad, he must have an alternative plan where he can get paid a similar amount or more against a different opponent. But shout out to Cameron for the super chat. It's definitely not beyond John Fury to do something like that, because he is incredibly narcissistic. It's all about him. He wants to be the guy. That's why he's calling out Logan Paul to fight. It's like John Fury thinks that he's the star of the show. Coppen says, do you like the film Boys in the Hood? Yeah, it was pretty good. It's pretty good. Boys in the Hood, Menace, Colors, those old school LA hood movies. Somebody asking me, do you believe in God? I'm agnostic. Agnostic. For those who don't know what agnosticism is, it is the state of not believing one way or the other. Because I can't prove it, because I've never had a religious experience, the most logical position for me to take is I don't know if there is a creator God or not. I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Couldn't tell you. You can't prove it either way. So I try to go with the logic on it and say, well, I'm agnostic. I mean, if you were to ask my suspicion, although I don't have any beliefs on it, I do have suspicions. I would suspect that there is some type of higher intelligence that has been involved in the creation of human beings, possibly the creation of the universe. I suspect that to be the case, but I wouldn't go as far as saying I believe it, but I suspect so. I'm open to the possibility that that suspicion could be completely wrong. As I say, I'm agnostic. Choice says I can still run 2 miles in under 9 minutes or 43. I don't think I've ever been able to run 2 miles in under 9 minutes. I'm a big boy, I'm a heavyweight. I was always a sprinter. I was never a long distance runner. Always been a sprinter. Ayed says, Hatman, what's the worst thing about getting older that you didn't predict? Well, I wasn't really predicting things about getting older when I was young. But I guess I always felt like the things that happen to other old people probably wouldn't happen to me. When you're young, you feel invincible. So I always felt like it will always be easy for me to lose weight. Because I was always an athlete growing up, an athlete in school, an athlete in my 20s. And when I did gain weight, I would lose it so easy. I didn't even have to try that hard. Few gym sessions here and there, the weight just disappears, shredded. But once I hit 40 in particular, yeah, it slows down tremendously. Like the amount of work I have to do now to lose, let's say, 5 pounds, 10 pounds is probably double or triple the amount of work I would do to lose the same amount of weight when I was like in my early 30s, even, never mind 20s. It's crazy. You do more training and train more intensely and lose less than when you were younger. And I was like, damn, so I am mortal after all. I thought I was going to maintain that ability to just melt the weight off and get shredded easily. But no, when you get older, I mean, it depends on the individual, obviously. But for me as a big guy, that's definitely not been the case. After 40, it's like, oh my gosh. Getting the weight off is damn ridiculously difficult. That's why I've started water fasting. For the past couple years, I've been doing water fasts here and there. The last water fast I did was a few weeks ago, and I lost 10 pounds in 4 days. How about that? 10 pounds in 4 days on a water fast. But that was maybe the third water fast I did, third or fourth one. But I was eating loads of carbs. When I say loads of carbs, I was eating, a normal amount of carbs leading up to that water fast. So I wasn't already in ketosis. So that water fast went badly wrong. And I started experiencing weird symptoms and I had to stop it prematurely. Because I had intended to do a 21-day water fast. But I had to stop after 4 days because literally my hands and feet were going numb. So I was going into full-on starvation mode. You know, when your body starts shutting off blood to your extremities? Yeah, that started happening to me after about 3 days. And I pushed through, but the numbness was starting to creep up my arms and legs. I was like, okay, this is very weird. This never happened last time I did a water fast. I did a 7-day water fast prior to that, and I had none of those symptoms. But I was already in ketosis before I started the water fast. Yeah, I got myself on a ketogenic diet for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then I did the water fast. So I didn't experience weird symptoms. But the last one, I went from, eating plenty of carbs to bang, no carbs overnight. And my body did not like it at all. It was like, nah, mate, we're not doing this. But still, even though it was a short water fast of 4 days, I lost 10 pounds in 4 days. Isn't that crazy? And that's the only way for me to lose large amounts of weight now is water fasting, unfortunately. Because since the water fast, I've been on a ketogenic diet and I've lost maybe 3 or 4 pounds. And I've pretty much been stuck at that same weight. So I'm like about, I don't know, a stone, about 14 pounds lighter than I was when I started the 4-day water fast. And that was like over a month ago. So basically my weight doesn't want to budge below that. Regardless of still being on a keto diet, irrespective of the fact I'm, exercising and all this type of stuff, it just doesn't want to budge. So it's probably going to have to be another water fast at some point. Not looking forward to it. But water fasting does work. I'm not recommending you guys do it, because stuff can go wrong. But it worked for me. Choice says no turkey for you at Christmas. I don't celebrate Christmas. Now, Costa says, what is water fasting? Water fasting is when you consume nothing but water for a particular period. No food, no liquid other than water. Yeah, I don't celebrate Christmas. I don't celebrate my birthday. I don't celebrate New Year's. I don't celebrate any of that stuff. Easter, don't celebrate any of it. Never have. Well, I celebrated my birthday and Christmas up until I was about 14. And since then, don't celebrate nothing. Well, I don't celebrate those dates. I celebrate things like if I've made a load of money, achieved something that I'm happy about, I'll celebrate. In terms of like just these dates, I don't celebrate dates. Afro Soul says Hatman's a grumpy old fella. No, it's just that I celebrate achievements. I don't see living another year as an achievement. I'm not that old. I mean, I'm old, but I'm not like, you know, the average age that you would expire, which is 70s, 80s. So living to your mid 40s, I mean, I don't really see it as an achievement. I don't live a dangerous life. I'm not on the streets. You know, I live a pretty comfortable existence. So what is there to celebrate? There's billions of donuts out there who live just as long as I do. as long as I have. They've done the same things. I don't see what the big achievement is. I mean, I've got nothing against other people celebrating their birthdays, but for me personally, I don't really see the significance of it. So I haven't celebrated my birthday since, I was about 14. And in fact, I mean, maybe there's some, to some extent, influence from my dad, because my dad's the same. My dad doesn't know his birthday. You know, my dad grew up very poor. He was born at home, doesn't know his exact birthday. So when he eventually, I guess he must have been in his 20s when he got a passport. And it was common back then, you know, in my country of origin for people of that generation, a lot of them not to have passports. And so when he went to get a passport, they asked him, do you know your date of birth? He's like, no, I don't know. So they just said, okay, we'll put January 1st. He doesn't know what year he was born. He knows roughly because of other people in the neighborhood who some of them know theirs. And so he approximated, he's probably born in around this year. But he doesn't know his exact birthday, and therefore he doesn't celebrate his birthday. Never has. Afro Soul says, why do I feel like an anaconda might pop out of the water, hat man? I'm not aware of there being any anacondas in there, but there is crocodiles. Oh yeah, there's crocodiles in there. Seen them many times. And people have actually been attacked, surfers, because that's actually an estuary. You see it on screen, that's an estuary. And at the mouth of the estuary, surfers will sometimes paddle across to get to a different beach that's better for surfing. And quite a few, I say quite a few, every few years, a surfer will get bit. One of them lost their leg, or their lower leg. The crocodile grabbed them. And there used to be bigger crocodiles in this estuary. I haven't seen any big crocodiles for a while in there, only little ones. I suspect that the government's actually culled a lot of the bigger crocodiles secretly, you know, covertly, because it's supposed to be a country where wildlife is really respected and preserved. And it is to a large extent, but because of the heavy, you know, Western tourist presence in this part of the country, people getting gobbled up by large crocodiles is bad for business. So I suspect that they've actually culled quite a lot of the large crocs in this estuary. Because you only see small ones now. Arawak says you mean alligator. No, crocodiles. The crocodiles, not alligators. And they grow big here, like very big. There's one part of the country where there's a bigger river, and you can actually, they feed them there. Are massive crocodiles. And people like go to this particular bridge to like throw food down and all this kind of stuff, and you'll see like 20, 30 massive crocodiles on the banks of the river below. Yeah, don't fall off. Wacko Jacko says, have you talked about Dennis McCann testing positive? Yeah, we briefly talked about it earlier on. You know, that's the thing about living in a tropical country. There's usually stuff that can kill you. You know, like animals that can kill you. If not on land, then in the water. So that's the trade-off, right? You want to live somewhere beautiful and warm. There's usually some type of hazard. And even if it's not animals, it'll be the weather. Because in the Caribbean, obviously, hurricanes. Okay, James says, Hatman, not boxing related, but have you ever heard of the 1994 aerial school Zimbabwe UFO event? Yes, I have. Yep. I saw the interviews with the kids and the teachers and all that. Bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. What do you think about it, James? That Zimbabwe UFO event. I think that was in the 90s, right? Ayed says, never heard of this Zimbabwe UFO. It's on YouTube. You look it up on YouTube, you'll see actual interviews with the kids who saw this being, the craft and the being in broad day. And I think some teachers as well who said they saw it. I mean, make of that what you will. It's a very, very strange incident. Troy says, Hatman, would you work as a guest pundit for any broadcaster like DAZN or Sky Sports? No, I would not. I don't like working for people. I haven't worked for anyone since 2009, 2008, 2009. I've been self-employed since. Shout out to Chris Ward. Big up. All the best to you and yours. James says, it's one of the most compelling cases I've ever come across. There's a great film called Aerial Phenomenon. Might be time for another song. Don't do it, Hatman, don't do it. Can't help myself. All right, this is a song I've sung before. You guys know this one? Again, gold star to whoever can identify the singer. She doesn't want me around. She's got something to hide. I think she wants a clown, someone to take for a ride. But I keep telling her I'm too experienced to be taken for a stroll. I'm too experienced for someone to rock and roll. I'm too experienced to be taken for a ride. And I know it's not my foolish pride. Barrington Levy. Yes. Some reggae man in the chat. That's right. The legend Barrington Levy. You know, I remember the music video for Here I Come, the Barrington Levy song. That song came out in the 80s, mid 80s. And at the time, Barrington Levy's official age when that song came out was like 28. If you see the video, Barrington Levy looks like a 50-year-old man. So I don't know what's going on there. Was the video not made until the late 90s or something? Just go look at Barrington Levy's age and then look when that song came out. He was like 28. And you look at the video, man looks about 50 at least. Joe Saunders says, hang on, Shola says, that's my dad's mate. What, Barrington Levy's your dad's mate? Joe Saunders says, if there was anything you could know the truth about, what would it be? The origins of human beings, the origins of life on Earth. The origins of life on Earth. CPB says crocodiles scare me. Well, they should. I know there are some crazy people out there who are not scared of him, but, you know, the fear's there for a reason, isn't it? I was always surprised, you know, when, what was that guy called? Steve Irwin? When he ended up dying, it was not getting eaten by a crocodile, which is what I assumed it was when I heard he died. He actually got killed by a stingray, which is such a bizarre death because stingray venom is not deadly unless it is injected directly into your heart. And because stingrays are bottom feeders, normally when people get stung, they get stung in the leg. So, you know, Steve Irwin, R.I.P., was messing with the animal. You know the way he used to mess with the animals, and he'd push it. He'd really push it. And you sometimes be cringing watching him messing with these animals. I'm like, bro, the animal's getting agitated. Leave it alone. And he's putting his face like right close to this deadly animal. It's like, crikey. I'm like, bro. And one of these days came, he must have been hovering over that stingray, like literally inches away from it, probably poking it or something. It stung him in the heart. Crazy. Rob Lyon says only 2 people ever died from stingrays. Irwin, one of them. Well, I suspect there's more than that, but reported. I think there's only a handful of people reported to have been killed by stingrays, and yeah, he was one of them. So what he must have been doing to get stung? I mean, why was he that close? Why was his chest so close to the stingray? I mean, anyway, he died doing what he loves, and I remember seeing his widow. And she was surprisingly together, having just lost her husband, because again, she said, well, he died doing what he loves. Ayed says, like Grizzly Man was doing with the bears. Yeah, oh, Grizzly Man, dear, oh dear. Him and his girlfriend got eaten. That was terrible. He thought those grizzly bears were his friends. He didn't know enough. Because when he went out to meet the grizzly bears, it was in late autumn and they were fat and they were about to go into hibernation, so they were lethargic. And, he didn't reckon for that. And that's why he was able to get close to them and they didn't attack him in fall and autumn time, because they were all fat and about to go into hibernation. When he visited them again, it was after they came out of hibernation and they were all hungry. And one of these grizzly bears that he thought was his friend attacked him and ate him and his girlfriend. Go figure. Oh, damn. Choice says Steve Irwin's wife remarried 2 months later. Say it ain't so. Did she really do that? Wow. Maybe that's why she weren't too upset. That's crazy. 2 months later. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Simon Jones said, I thought she died also. No, Steve Irwin's the guy who got killed by the stingray. His wife never died, at least not at the time. Grizzly Man is the one who died, and his girlfriend. Yeah, the guy who went out to mess with grizzly bears. Him and his girlfriend got killed and eaten. Like, I remember listening to an interview with a guy, I'm not sure if he was a zoologist or, some type of scientist that works with animals and wildlife and whatever. And he spoke about a time when they tranquilized the grizzly bear out in the American wild somewhere. They tranquilized this grizzly bear, right? And while it was out, they did whatever they did, examinations, or I'm not sure if they tagged it, whatever they did with it. But he said a colleague of his was hanging around close to the grizzly bear while it started to come to, right? When the effects of the tranquilizer started to wear off. And he and other people were telling the colleague, come away, because the bear's clearly starting to come to. But the colleague thought, nah, I'll be all right. I just want to see if he recognizes me, or acknowledges me when he starts coming to a little bit. Some people just like to push it because they're silly. And he said, this grizzly bear, all of a sudden, swiped at the guy. Yeah, this guy who was too close. It swiped at him with its claw and decapitated him. It decapitated him with one swipe of its claw. A fully grown man. That's how powerful these animals are. I was like, what? They can do that? Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, the crocodile, the saltwater crocodile, has got the strongest bite strength of any animal. Stronger than a great white shark, stronger than any animal is the saltwater crocodile. Incredible bite strength. I mean, you don't tend to think of them as having, you know, the strongest bite strength because their teeth are not sharp, right? I mean, they've got pointed teeth, but they're not like shark's teeth that are razor sharp. But apparently, they're just the bite force is greater than any other animal, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, crocodiles just look scary. They look like demons, you know? You got the split pupils, scaly, massive mouth full of teeth. They roar. No, hippo is the most aggressive. I mean, hippos account for more deaths than any other large animal in Africa. So hippos kill more humans every year in Africa than crocodiles do. But to my knowledge, they don't have a bite force greater than a crocodile. And to my knowledge, saltwater crocodiles got the greatest bite force, but hippos are extremely aggressive. So, you know, if you're going on safari in Africa somewhere, in fact, you can see the videos on YouTube where people are on rivers and in lakes in Africa in a boat, and the hippos will chase down the boat. They're extremely territorial, highly aggressive. They hate humans. And in fact, hippos hate crocodiles too. You ever see them videos on YouTube of hippos attacking crocodiles? In fact, I saw one video where this crocodile snatched up a gazelle or some type of antelope, that type of creature, from the bank of a river, and it dragged it into the water. And then a hippo came across and like bit the crocodile and got him to release the antelope. I was like, damn. Don't even want the crocodile to eat. Okay, somebody's asking what's the voice changer called? Well, I've got a audio interface, which is kind of old actually. I mean, I got it recently, but it's been around for a long time and people have actually moved on to different interfaces. I've got 3 different interfaces that I stream with. One of them is called a Roland Bridgecast or Bridgecast 1, which is a small interface. I've got a Roland Bridgecast 1. I've got a Zoom P4. And then the one I'm using right now is a Go XLR. And the Go XLR is the one that's got different voice changing effects. Actually, the Roland Bridgecast has got voice changing effects on it as well, but they're not as good, I don't think anyway, as the Go XLR effects, which are better. Callum says, have you seen the video where the croc rips off the zebra's face? No, but I saw one where some type of animal, I'm not sure whether it was a croc or whether it was like, it might have been a hippo actually, ripped off a lion's jaw. This lion literally had its jaw ripped off and the jaw was like dangling from some skin. And you know how hard animals are. like how unbelievably tough wild animals are. This lion was walking around with its jaw dangling from a bit of skin casually. It wasn't like, you know, howling or anything like that. It was just like walking around cash with his jaw hanging off. A human being would have passed out. This lion was like, well, obviously the lion would have died pretty quickly, right? Because without its jaw, it's not going to be able to eat anything or survive. So it would have died pretty quick. But yeah, the lion's jaw was hanging off. I think it was a hippo that ripped it off. Some kind of large animal ripped it off. I saw another one where a lion got bitten by a snake. Might have been a mamba or something, black mamba. And this lion was like convulsing after being bitten by a snake. Yeah, those African savannas, not the place to incarnate, especially for an animal, right? Battle for survival every day. Yeah, wildlife does not play. Wildlife is savage. You know, people talk about how peaceful nature is and all this type of stuff. Yeah, nature can be peaceful, but in small doses. If you actually have to live in nature, in the wilderness, you'll realize it's not peaceful at all. It's savage. Even in your back garden, how many creatures get killed every day in your back garden? Worms getting eaten by birds, you know, bugs eating each other and all that type of stuff. Obviously in most Western countries, well, let me say Britain, all the big animals have been killed off centuries ago, right? But still, little animals kill each other every day. Nature is savage. When was the last of the wolves in Britain? I want to say it might have been in Scotland, I think. 300-400 years ago, there might have still been wolves in Scotland, and it might have been at least 1,000 years in England since there were wolves. And as far as bears, Roman times maybe? Were there still bears in Britain during the Roman times? Maybe. CPB says, Hatman, do you think kids' TV shows and films on Disney and CBeebies need to stop portraying animals so cuddly, as cuddly teddy bears to small children? Well, it's not like these children are ever going to encounter bears in real life whilst they're still children, right? At least not with their parents present. So I don't think it's really that much of an issue unless you're living in a country where there are actually wild bears. You know, if you were living in Canada or something, you might want to keep your kids away from those type of programs. Certain parts of Canada, those bears will just roll right up onto your porch. Start sniffing around in your garbage can and let themselves into your house. CPB says, I'm not saying bears themselves, just animals themselves. But again, there's no real animals in Britain that are dangerous, right? I mean, there are some poisonous snakes, or a poisonous snake. The adder, which is poisonous. And in fact, I think there are some other poisonous snakes that are invasive species. I saw a video where they actually found poisonous snakes beside a canal in London. And these were not adders. So I think they're like invasive species that somebody's released from, you know, a pet collection or whatever decades ago. But yeah, the adder is indigenous and that's poisonous. But other than that, there's nothing really that's gonna It's a danger to you in Britain, is there? Not any creatures that kids are going to see. I mean, fox might be somewhat dangerous to a kid, but foxes are very skittish. And badgers, I mean, when are you ever going to see a badger? They're nocturnal, and I've never seen one. Seen loads of foxes. I mean, London is, if there's anywhere in the UK where you're guaranteed to see foxes on a regular basis, is London. Unbelievable how many foxes there are in London. Incredible, even in the daytime. Loads of areas in London where you will see foxes running around on the streets in the daytime. I've never been anywhere else in the UK where you see that many foxes. Callum says, never seen a badger, seen 3 foxes. Where do you live? You only seen 3 foxes. In London, you'll see 3 foxes like in an afternoon. It's everywhere. CPB says an aggressive, okay, I see what you're saying. An aggressive Rottweiler, not on a leash, could be fatal to a small kid. Yeah, but they're pets, in it. They're not roaming around. So presumably the owners and parents would make the necessary provisions to keep kids safe. The outlaw pugilist says, I live in Manchester. I see badgers. Was born in London and see foxes everywhere. Daytime too. Yeah, the foxes in London are just, it's bizarre how many there are, you know. It's crazy. Cloud says apparently big rats can attack. There are plenty of those in London too. Rats all over the gaff. Bring back fox hunting, says Choice. Yeah, but how are you going to do fox hunting in London? You know what I mean? Riding through the streets on horseback. Not really practical. I know some people poison them. I knew a guy who would put raw chickens outside of a foxhole in somebody's back garden. He was like a gardener. And he'd get rid of foxes for people by putting mercury inside raw chickens and then putting them outside these foxholes. You know, the fox would eat the chicken with mercury in it and die. CPB says, have you heard the rumors that bears and wolves could be reintroduced to rural areas in the UK, such as the Scottish Highlands and possibly some of the big districts? Well, yeah, they've been talking about that for decades. Rewilding, they call it. But there's a lot of resistance to it, as there should be. Because, you know, you talk about the Highlands of Scotland, people go hiking up there and, you know, they take their kids and they enjoy nature. You start introducing wolves. I mean, what could go wrong? Yeah, not a good idea. I mean, there's a reason that wolves were hunted to extinction in the British Isles. I'm saying there's a good reason. Do you know what I mean? I know people love nature and all this type of stuff, but there's not enough space in Britain. There's not enough of a wilderness in Britain to be able to introduce these kind of dangerous animals safely, in my opinion. Because there's going to be far too much human contact. They're going to come into contact with humans too often. And it's going to go wrong. Simon Jones says, wolves aren't that dangerous if you look at the stats. Yeah, because wolves tend to not like human contact. You know, like in the Black Forest in Germany, you find wolves. Well, the Black Forest in Germany is far bigger than any forest in Britain, right? So the wolves can keep their distance. But the more contact that predators like that have with humans, the more attacks there are going to be. That tends to be how it goes. It's like in India, where they've got leopards and tigers and what have you, but particularly leopards. When these Indian cities have expanded and you know, they've started to incur into the natural habitat of leopards, unsurprisingly, attacks on human beings by leopards in India have been going up. So they were relatively low before because people were living in the cities and they were staying away from where the leopards live, right? But once the environment of human beings starts crossing over with the environment of the leopards, you're going to get more attacks. And I just think Britain is too densely populated, you know, for you to introduce like large predators like that. Chris D says rewilding the wolves will be the best thing for the environment. Well, it might be good for the environment, you know, because they will prey on deer or whatever. But is it the best thing for humans who want to enjoy the environment? You know, I mean, is it the best thing for farmers when they're having their livestock killed by wolves? You know, they haven't had to deal with that problem before. And all of a sudden, you know, these farmers who rely on their livestock are losing loads of them to wolves. And there is wild boar, which I don't know whether it was part of a rewilding program, but there's wild boar in England now. I know that. What's that big sort? Is it the New Forest in the south of England? The New Forest in the south of England, there's wild boar in there, I'm sure. And in other parts of England, there's wild boar again. Obviously, wild boar are not, I mean, they can be dangerous, but, you know, they don't prey on humans. In fact, what do wild boar eat? Do they eat insects? What do they eat? Are they omnivorous? Matt says there's long been suspected that there's a panther population in the West Country. Yeah, for a very long time. I remember a video that came out in the 90s that was on the news that appeared to be, it was a grainy, you know, VHS video back then of a big cat. And obviously people, when the, you know, laws were a lot more relaxed and loose in the 60s and 70s, there were people that had exotic pets. And so the belief was that some of these pets were released into the wild because they got too big for the owners to handle, so they just released them. Whether they still are around today, who knows? You know, have they bred with feral cats and created hybrids, which are somewhere between a domestic cat and a panther? Who knows? But you still do hear reports of you know, big cat sightings in Britain. But then you hear these skeptics who say, no, they're just feral cats. Because feral cats, like domestic cats that have gone wild, apparently can get very big. Like much bigger than normal domestic cats, these feral cats. I don't know. Danny says escape from zoos. No, not escape from zoos, from private collections. Because like back in the 60s and 70s, the laws were very lax then in terms of importing exotic animals. So there were people in Britain that actually had, you know, panthers and stuff like that as pets. Kind of like they do in Dubai now. You know, some of them Arabs have got like lions and stuff in their mansions. You know, wild stuff like that. Although, you know, a lion probably wouldn't survive very long in the desert. Well, the Scottish Highland cat is not a feral cat, it's a wild cat. The feral cats are domestic animals that have become wild. You know, they no longer have owners, and there's like communities of feral cats in Britain. I think particularly in areas like Devon and Cornwall, as I understand it, there are feral cats around there. Cats that have, you know, no owners and have been breeding in the wild. They used to be domestic cats and now they're breeding in the wild. And some of them apparently can be quite big. And because they're feral, they become more aggressive as well, like aggressive to humans. Because obviously feral cats have to hunt for their food. Domestic cats don't. Barry says those feral cats are a problem in Australia. They've got huge. And that's the least of your problems in Australia when it comes to dangerous animals, right? You got snakes, spiders, sharks in the ocean, crocodiles. Even kangaroos are aggressive. You see those videos where kangaroos are coming across and kicking people? Those hench kangaroos with the six packs and abs and I saw one where some guy in Australia came down on a parachute. He landed somewhere in the outback on a parachute. And this kangaroo came over and started attacking him. Started like kicking him. Scorpions, yeah. I like scorpions. Always like those creatures for some reason. Not like I'd want to deal with the issue of scorpions, but, you know, just aesthetically, I like them. Shout out to Ocean Blue in the chat. Yeah, we've strayed way off the beaten path with this discussion. I'm talking about feral animals and UFOs. What's next? Bigfoot? Let's talk about Bigfoot. Or the abominable snowman, the Yeti. CPB says, I'd say the most dangerous animal in the UK is a cow if they're provoked. Well, a bull. Yeah, bulls are very dangerous. Very dangerous. You ever been in a field with a bull? Bulls are very dangerous. If you've ever been to Epping Forest, which is in northeast London, or it starts in northeast London, Epping Forest. They've got cows in there. I remember I went to Epping Forest. The first time I went there, I was startled. And I was like walking through the forest, as you do. And I heard this sound, you know, like moo, the typical cow sound. I was like, what on earth is that? I'm literally in the middle of a forest. and this massive cow comes out of the bush in front of, I'm walking down a path, right? And on the path I'm going down, this massive cow with huge horns and everything comes out of the bushes onto the path in front of me. And I'm like, why is there cows in this forest? I didn't even know cows were in forests. But it was this giant cow. I was like, man, I'm going the other way. Because I was thinking it must be a bull because it's got horns. And bulls are very aggressive. But it turns out that it's a breed of cattle called the English Longhorn. And even the females have got long horns. So, yeah, apparently they only have females roaming around in Epping Forest, female cows. And they're relatively docile. I mean, you don't want to get too close. But, yeah, they don't have bulls roaming around. That'd be crazy. S. Dot says, what do you think about the Dyatlov Pass incident? Never heard of it. Tell me about it. Never heard of it. G-Man says, Epping Forest, last stop on the Central Line. Can't say I'm in a rush to go. It's the only forest in London, really. Actually found it quite interesting going there. They've got like ancient earthworks in Epping Forest, which was really interesting. These earthworks are like dated to about 500 BC. And there's two of them. I forget what they're called now, but yeah, they date from about 500 BC. And it's incredible that a structure like that could last that long, 2,500 years. The humans that were living down there at that time. And also, Dick Turpin used to hide in, him and his gang used to hide up in Epping Forest, apparently. Dick Turpin was a scumbag, a criminal from, a couple centuries ago, who became famous and whatever. Mostly after his death, I think. S.A. says it's a well-known case. Look into it. Lots of documentaries on it. What is it? A UFO case? What kind of case is it? Choice says, imagine going to Epping from Brixton for a link to get stood up. Damn, did that happen to you? I think I've only been stood up for a link once that I can remember. But stood up once. Oh, your brother. Damn, your brother went from Brixton to Epping Forest. Ocean Blue says, you ever been to Stonehenge? Nah. I don't like going to these places where everybody goes. It takes the magic away from it for me. But yeah, and Epping Forest is it's not a very big forest, but it's the only forest, the only half proper forest that there is in London. They got wildlife in there, they got deer, a lot of deer in there. Cows. birds and woodpeckers and stuff like that. Old trees. Barry says, I could play on the stones at Stonehenge as a kid. You can't now. It's locked down and you have to queue and pay. Yep. It's not the same anymore. Things just ain't the same for gangsters. S.A says, yeah, possible UFO stuff, mysterious disappearances of a group of people in the mountains. Well, if you want to talk about mysterious disappearances, one of the most bizarre places on Earth is in, let me orient my geography now. It's in Western Zimbabwe. There's a mountain range or a hilly area. I think it's mountains Eastern Zimbabwe, excuse me. I think it's Eastern Zimbabwe. And it's called the mountain that eats people, right? People disappear there all the time and it's been going on for decades, maybe centuries. And I read literally the most bizarre story I've ever read in a mainstream newspaper in my life. Now, if it was the Daily Star, yeah, they print all kinds of crazy stories, right? But this was one of the other rags. It was like the Telegraph or the Mail or whatever. And there was a dam being built in this area of Zimbabwe, right? They were building a dam near this mountain the mountain that eats people. And they had divers going down into the river or the lake or whatever near this mountain as part of the construction, building the dam. And the divers were getting attacked, right? I kid you not. Google it, look it up. The divers were getting attacked and they were coming back to the surface, right? And they were saying they were being attacked by mermaids. Now these divers and these construction workers were, black Zimbabweans. And so the government said, well, it must just be superstitious locals, So let's send a bunch of white construction workers in because they don't believe in all the stuff that, the black people believe in. So when they sent the white workers in, they were getting attacked. They were reporting the same thing, that they were getting attacked by mermaids. and literally it became a crisis in Zimbabwe where they had reached an impasse trying to get this dam built because all the workers, the black ones and the white ones, were saying they were being attacked by mermaids. I mean, is it some type of scam going on? I don't know. It was just a bizarre story. In the end, they were like local tribal elders and witch doctors and stuff in the area who had to be brought in to deal with the problem. So they went there and did some incantations or made some sacrifices and offerings and whatever. And the mermaids went away and they were able to finish the construction of the dam. Again, Google it. An absolutely bizarre story. Totally bizarre. Callum says trying to get out of work. I don't know, man. Read the story for yourself and see what you think of it. But it was very, very strange. And that particular mountain, people go missing there all the time. I mean, all the time. Yeah, you go on YouTube and just type in the mountain that swallows people, Zimbabwe, and you'll see loads of cases of people who have gone missing there. Loads of them. That's it. Thank you, Esther. Mount Nyangani. That's the one. A very strange place. Mount Nyangani. Yeah, I swear that's in the east of Zimbabwe. Lee Thomas says in Bolivia, they sacrifice animals when they build structure. It's like an offering to the gods. Yeah, they do that a lot in Africa as well. They do that a lot in Africa too. It's commonplace in many African countries for them to do that. Sacrifice animals on the foundation of a building, and sometimes humans, unfortunately. Yeah, the folklore of Southern Africa is very interesting. Here's another one, right? There is a mythological creature. I say mythological because if you speak to people from Southern Africa, especially older people, it's not mythological as far as they're concerned, right? There's a creature in Southern Africa, in South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, called the Tokoloshe. The Tokoloshe. And it's a short, hairy creature with apparently a massive Johnson, right? This short, hairy creature with a large Johnson, which terrorizes people and likes to assault women. And this creature is apparently so prolific in Southern Africa that there are court cases, I kid you not, court cases where people have, said that such and such a witch doctor set the Tokoloshe on them and they got assaulted. There are videos that you can see of people in South Africa with like scars all over their body where they say that the Tokoloshe attacked them. Lee Thomas says, you mean Danny DeVito? As Dot said, it's called Ron Jeremy. Well, there's actually a movie, at least one movie, called Tokoloshe. Yeah, so they took that, creature and made a movie out of it, the Tokoloshe. South Africa does a lot of movies. Some of them are pretty good. They're very prolific with filmmaking in South Africa. Like, good budget. There's a lot of South African movies even on Netflix, like high budget movies and whatever. Ron Jeremy. Didn't Ron Jeremy catch a bunch of charges? I swear he got hit with some charges, didn't he, Ron Jeremy? A fault line says some former voodoo Haitian people have got pretty interesting stories. Well, there is a very interesting story about Haiti, and that is the zombies in Haiti. Because obviously, Haiti won their independence from France, right? That's a very famous, historical thing where the Haitians won their independence from France. And when they were fighting against the French, when they defeated the French, it is said that they used zombie soldiers to defeat the French. But here's the thing. The zombies were created by using something that they call zombie powder. And this is some type of concoction, obviously comes in a powder, some type of chemical concoction, which is, I think, sniffed. I don't think it's ingested. I think it's sniffed. And when the person sniffs it, it has some kind of extreme effect on them. So it can bring people back from the brink of death. It's some type of extreme stimulant, basically, that can make you numb to pain and all that type of stuff. And when you're high on this stuff, you become susceptible or more controllable somehow. You know, somebody can give you a set of instructions. You're not quite in your right mind. And when somebody speaks to you a certain way, you can be like a drone that gets sent out to do tasks and whatever. Look it up. Yeah, they were actually giving these Haitian soldiers this, what they call zombie powder, that would bring them back from the brink of death, some type of extremely strong stimulant. And there's another concoction, I think in West Africa, which was also able to bring people apparently, in fact, no, there were two different concoctions, right? So there was one concoction which was derived from, I think, blowfish or pufferfish poison. And when the person is given this concoction, it slows their heartbeat down to like 3 beats a minute. So the person would appear dead. If you went down and took their pulse, they would appear to be dead. And then they give them another substance, right? These African witch doctors, which brings them not quite back to normal, but almost. And they're in a zombie-like state, where again, they can be controlled and told, do this and do that. And so through the use of these potions, apparently that's where the myth, if you want to call it that, of the zombies came from. So it was some type of, you could call it a parlor trick or whatever, where they would give these people this substance derived from blowfish poison, and they'd appear to be dead. And then they'd rise up like Baron Samedi, controlled by the witch doctor, you know? It's very interesting. And in fact, I saw a program about a substance that the Zulus were using. You know, when the Zulus defeated the English in South Africa with just spears and shields and whatever in that battle, the Zulus were also given some type of extremely strong stimulant by their witch doctors. And I saw this documentary where these scientists were like, you know, they spoke to some South African Sangoma, which is a witch doctor, and they got him to get the ingredients to make the substance that was given to the Zulu warriors when they defeated the English. And again, it was made up of lots of different roots and herbs and all this type of stuff. And the scientists analyzed it. You know, they were looking at all the different compounds and they were like, wow, this is really interesting. And they gave this substance to a judo guy, right? They had a couple of judo guys, and one of them was given this substance that the Zulus took, and the other one wasn't. And when they gave him the substance, he was like flipping Super Saiyan. It made him like incredibly strong, fast. It like increased his fighting ability several fold. Callum says, sounds like the homeless population where I live on spice. Ocean Blue says, was it the Ethiopians who apparently used the Ark of the Covenant against the Italians? Yes. And they still claim to have it. Although they've moved it around a few places. It was in Axum. That's where they say it was for a long time. And they say they've moved it since because, you know, there's a lot of unrest in that part of Ethiopia, fighting between different tribes or factions or whatever. Somebody says, let's hope Conor Benn doesn't hear about that stuff then. And given the fact that it's made from all these different like African roots and herbs, you might get past the drug test with it as well. Can't imagine it's on the banned list, right? Because it's not like a substance that you could get from a chemist. Dr. Eggman, yes. All right, peeps. Let's draw the curtain on this one. Shout out to everybody who joined me once again for this live stream. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the conversation. And special thanks to everybody who donated via Super Chat. Be good. And I'll catch you next time. Might do a live stream tomorrow. We'll see. If not, then Sunday, because Dylan White is fighting on Sunday. So I'll do a live stream for one of those shows, maybe. So, yeah, anyway. Catch you guys in the next one. I'm out.